I'm just going to go ahead and, what time is it? 7:08. I'm going to read the Open Public Meetings Act to get that out of the way. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the record, the Suburbanite and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. So, Lizette, do we do a roll call or no? Omar, can you hear us or no?
No, Omar isn't, his mic isn't working.
So,
I'll do the roll call.
go ahead.
Councilmember Dayton?
Here.
Councilmember Grossman? Councilmember Menon? Councilmember Michaels is absent. Councilmember O'Connor?
Julie usually calls in.
Yeah. Councilmember Park?
Here.
Mayor Zinna?
Here. So we have a quorum?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll start to be considered. First item is the flag policy. Who put this on the agenda?
This was a carryover from the last meeting. So that way the governing body has legal guidance from Anthony. But right now he's still trying to log on. He's having a little bit of difficulty.
So we'll wait for him for a second.
Want to go to the next thing?
Let's go to the next thing. Street names. Does anyone want to speak on this topic?
I think personally, we covered it pretty well in the last meeting, and it's just a topic that as a country we need to from time to time hold, and we held it. And for now, I think we have some other pressing things. Time to move on that issue.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone? Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Outdoor dining program review.
That's me. I put it on. I think Julie as well. Julie, are you on yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Okay. So the downtown committee and this council created the downtown plan, obviously as a first try back in June. Sorry, the light's hitting me funny. And what we want to do is kind of see where we're at, see the status. We know that last meeting we heard from many of our businesses that had concerns about how it was playing out. And so this is an opportunity for all of us to have a discussion and to check in with each other as to the status. I would like to say that I am not sure how accommodations are occurring right now. I have seen a lot of violations of our actual ordinance that the council passed, in which sidewalk seating is randomly placed, or the barriers are asking to be shifted. So now is our opportunity to have this kind of discussion. And also, I would like to clarify that I believe it was the intent of the council's ordinance that the accommodations come before the mayor and council for approval and not just the borough. So I'm opening this up for discussion. That's where I'm at.
Okay, great. Julie, do you want to say anything, or I'll just give a little run, a couple of items?
No, I think Lauren summarized it best. Particular things that concern me, for example, the sidewalk seating, things like that. But no, I want to hear where we're at, and I know you have some updates. So yeah, it's good to revisit.
So in no particular order, and interrupt me if you want to ask a particular question. We do have some violations going on of the sidewalk seating, and we're going to be addressing that with code enforcement this week to clear all that up, because you're right, we can't have people both on the street with their tables and then blocking sidewalks so that people can walk by because they can't keep socially distant. So that's an issue that's getting addressed this particular week. In terms of the council approved the movement of particular barriers in front of the pet store and tea garden. That's actually happening tomorrow morning. We were waiting on Jay Fletcher Creamer to give us a particular gadget to move the Jersey barriers safely. We're going to move them ourselves, but we didn't want to drag them in the street because they could cause damage to the street. So we're just waiting for that piece of equipment. And I believe the chief was actually getting a hold of that this afternoon from Jay Fletcher Creamer. So go ahead, Lauren.
With Plaza Pet World, they had asked for the accommodation to have back door parking. Who did that go before? Because I know the 6 of us didn't have that before us.
So that never happened as anything more than conversations. In other words, the borough hasn't said to them, okay, go ahead, that's now your parking.
So do we need to vote on that tonight?
Well, that really, my understanding was, as far as Plaza was concerned, that was no longer anything they were interested in. And I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but that's not something they really wanted to pursue. So it never went anywhere. They were much more happier with what was going on in front on the street, which the council voted on and approved. So there is no plan underway to do anything with the parking in the back.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a list of any other accommodations that have been now submitted to the borough?
So we have another set of accommodations, which we haven't really ironed out to bring before the council. Over in front of Bread on Railroad Avenue, they are asking for some planters to be put on the street so that they can move their tables into the street rather than having it on the sidewalk. And I have to go over there with the chief of police to even talk about how that will work from a safety standpoint before we bring it to the council for approval. And it's just like the barriers. If it looks like it's something that could be done safely and it makes sense, then we'll bring it before the council for a consensus to move forward on it.
Can I throw it out? Would anyone be interested in moving the barriers from Plaza Pet World to in front of Bread? Is that a possibility?
Well, the only thing I would say before you say that, moving the barriers it's not like we're taking the barriers away from in front of Plaza. We need the barriers there to angle them so it's done safely. And so we're not necessarily moving them away from the geographic area, but they're being repositioned in a way that make it safe for everyone.
So you can tell Bread that I donated 10 flower boxes and they're not out. So I gave them to both the chamber and the downtown committee. So if they would like to have some of them, that was my personal donation for downtown. I did lights and flowers. So they're welcome to go inquire.
Where are those flower boxes physically? Who did you give them to?
I gave them to the downtown committee, not the downtown, excuse me, to Tenafly Cares have and to the chamber.
All right, so maybe they're with the chamber. I will follow up with them on that issue.
I believe Christine Evron handed the chamber ones out, and I'm not sure who has which ones, but they do exist. They were 10 large flower pots.
Okay. Follow up with Christine, 10 of them. Okay.
We are out of money from any donations. Again, this whole thing is based on donations for anyone in the public listening. So the restaurants are now trying to pool, from what I understand, money together for tents and shade. And I believe that's why they were moving things onto the sidewalk to get the shade. You know, we as a borough don't have any ability to fund that. But if we have anything in our reservoir at the DPW for some shade or anything that we are willing to utilize, I'd be willing to have that conversation.
And on the point of funding and money, the restaurants paid for all their own, for the umbrellas that are on the tables, right. And that's in the tents. That's all their expense and their investment in their businesses there.
Yeah, and they're great. I mean, they're doing a wonderful job, and we hope they're, getting business. Any other council person have anything that they want me to work on here?
Dan, do you have any questions? Or
I don't have any questions. You may want to just collectively tell the businesses, especially the restaurants operating in the evening, that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, if they have an FM radio, 88.1 on the dial is what we are aiming to broadcast the concerts.
That's 88.1 FM?
88.1 FM at the bottom of the dial. It's an empty spot.
We'll call that radio free Tenafly.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Music will be a wonderful addition for downtown. That'll be great.
Absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so
Mark,
moving,
can I just ask a quick thing, Mark? I'm
course.
sorry.
go ahead.
Just regarding anything that comes up in enforcement, anything that it's like a sidewalk issue, whatever. Remind everyone, what's our protocol? We contact Lisette. Is that what you said?
So contact Lisette, email her, CC me on it, and she will communicate with code enforcement to address whatever's going on.
Correct.
Okay, Anthony, are you on?
Yeah, he just.
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, Anthony, why don't you speak a little bit about the flag policy ideas you have with the council?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So we took a look at what some other towns are doing with respect to municipalities taking positions on issues of public concern with respect to raising flags or other government type speech. And from our perspective, I was asked to look at this from the perspective of the First Amendment, because obviously when towns are asked to fly flags in furtherance of certain political messages or not, it sort of opens up a Pandora's box in terms of, what messages do municipalities, cities, townships, and the like want to select in order to convey out to the public. And that becomes a slippery slope in terms of, well, you may have one entity that approaches you in terms of, we want you to raise our flag, versus some others that may be viewed as untoward or the like, where it would be difficult to say yes to one and no to the other. So it opens up a Pandora's box from a legal perspective, potentially, exposing the borough to questions regarding what policies, messages it supports versus others. So what some towns have done based on our research, Rutherford being one of them, Montvale being another, and I believe Teaneck being another, is some towns actually have adopted an ordinance where they specifically prohibit the use of public property, township property, so to speak, to convey political messages. With respect to the flags, some towns say we're only going to fly the flag of New Jersey, flag of the United States, obviously, and potentially the flag, POW flags, or the flag of another country for a set period of time. So from my perspective, with respect to this issue of raising flags on a need basis when those requests come to us, from a legal perspective, I would recommend that the borough either do one of two things. One, consider, consistent with what some other towns have done, adopting a policy, a clean policy, quite frankly, that says, look, we're not going to allow for the use moving forward of township property for political messages. I don't know if that's something that you are willing to consider. I'm just throwing it out there in the sense that some other towns have done that. If the governing body doesn't want to go that far, the other option, and what I would recommend to the extent that you don't want to go that far, is we really ought to consider adopting an ordinance that sets forth parameters and a policy. Almost in the legal world, it's called a time and manner sort of policy, in terms of what considerations is the governing body going to take into account in making a determination of what to fly, what flag to fly versus what flags not to fly? And should there be a set policy in terms of, okay, if we agree to fly a flag, we're going to fly it for, say, a week during this time period, so forth and so on, in terms of setting forth specific guidelines so that there is a direct policy that is known to the public so that everyone is on the same page. So from my perspective, from a legal perspective, there's really I would recommend either one of two options. One, a policy that simply says, look, we're not going to use public property moving forward to fly any political flags, just so that we keep the borough out of those sort of slippery slope, not technically, but colloquially, First Amendment type issues. Or should we look into adopting policies that set forth certain parameters for what flags or political messages do we want to fly? So, you know, from my perspective, those are really the two options. I would not counsel the borough to continue moving forward as it is done up to this time in terms of where a request is made. We either make a decision on the fly, so to speak, pun intended, where we raise this flag on the fly. I think we should have an ordinance that sets forth parameters, guidelines, and the like, so that we're consistent moving forward.
So thank you, Anthony. Questions from the council, Lauren?
Actually, I'm going to let Jeff go first.
Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
No. So a couple of questions, Anthony. First of all, I was just reading, I forget which town, it may be Ridgewood, has consistently said that they're going to allow a flag to be flown in one of their parks, but not over their borough hall. And they seem to feel that there's some distinction. I'm not sure what it is. That's number one. Number two, in a policy, I would think that if it's an event recognized by the state of New Jersey, so for example, New Jersey recognizes Juneteenth, and we raised a Juneteenth flag. It's a state, not an official holiday where you have days off, but it's recognized by New Jersey. I'm sure there's probably been proclamations by either the state or county recognizing Pride Month. So I think where there's official proclamations, that would certainly be one of those safe places to go, because that's 90% of what we probably end up doing anyway. So those two things, first Ridgewood, then governmental policies that already exist.
Yeah, I can't speak to Ridgewood's policy. I don't see the legal distinction between flying something at Borough Hall versus at a park. I don't think there is any real legal distinction, practically speaking, with respect to that. And on the second point, I certainly have no issue one way or the other. It's just a question of what can we do that's in the best interest of the town that protects the borough moving forward. To the extent that the borough wants to adopt a policy that's consistent, sort of like what you're indicating, if there's some sort of statewide recognized issue, that's fine. At least it's set forth in an ordinance that is clear, and we can consistently abide by that moving forward, so that to the extent that another request is made that falls short of that, well, we have a policy that's set in place that's open, out, and transparent for everyone to see, that we can, rest our laurels on, so to speak. So I have no issue with that from a legal perspective. Yeah.
Lauren?
So, Jeff, I just want to say, a lot of times part of your community is to raise issues that have not been recognized before. And while I agree that anything recognized by New Jersey should be allowed to fly a flag, I also think it would be too narrow to confine us to that. And to me, I am very much against restricting an open public forum or a partial public forum here to any group that would like to spread its message under the First Amendment. I may not always agree with the message, but I will give it a forum. I'm not interested in hate message that clearly won't go, and things that need to be censored would clearly not be allowed under the First Amendment. So as long as it complies and comports with the First Amendment, I have no problem with it. Anthony, the park versus the Borough Hall has been seen in case law versus government speech versus public speech, and what is consistent with each. So is a flag in front of Borough Hall considered public speech when the flag in the park might not be, depending on the distance and the, who's raising it? We here in the town have a flag raising at Hyler done by borough staff. Yesterday in Juneteenth, our DPW guys and our mayor and council were there for a flag raising for that issue. So that to me would extend as government speech. you know, if we go and put it somewhere else in the town and we are not involved in it, is that considered government speech? It may not be. So I think there is a distinction there, and I'm seeing that in some case law that I've read. I would caution us against having too restrictive of a policy here. I think it opens us up to lawsuits if we do that. I think we're more likely to get a lawsuit from some extreme group that will not fall within our ordinance than if we have a policy in which the flag needs to get approved each time. You know, I think the ever-changing world that we live in right now allows for fringe groups to become commonplace. And part of the way they do that is to get their message across. So to me, anything that's too restrictive in time, manner, place for First Amendment kind of mutes that message. And I'm not interested in passing that kind of policy.
Okay, other council members, Julie, Dan, Banu, would you like to weigh in? Banu, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to weigh in exactly at this time. Go ahead, Venu.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say too much about it. If we go forward with trying to craft something, that's fine. But I mean, just in general, I agree that maybe you know, leaving a loose framework of certain things we might not want. For example, you know, leaving out hate speech. You know, certain things that might trigger you know, the wrong kind of message for a borough. Might be, you know, a wise thing, but, you know, not making it overly restrictive, because as Lauren said, there are certain things that you know, we don't know 50 years from now what, you know, Tenafly might want to, you know, how it might want to look at certain things. And, you know, there might be certain things that need to be, you know, awareness needs to be raised through the raising of a flag, for example. And
Okay. Dan, do you want to weigh in there? You there, Dan?
No, not yet. Nothing to weigh in on yet.
Nothing. Okay. All right. So,
Sorry, one more thing.
oh, go ahead, Lauren.
Sorry. I would be, Anthony, I'd be totally fine with creating at least a policy saying you need to apply for a permit to raise the flag. You can't just put your flag on our pole. That, all of those kind of rules and regulations, that's no problem. But I would hate to do it content-based, you know, or just limit it to 1 week or whatever. I mean, we raised the pride flag for the whole month of June, for example. So again, like, we're going to trip over our own self if we are too restrictive.
So Anthony, is it fair to say you have a good sense of the council's view on this, that you can put together a first draft for them to review?
Sure, Mayor, absolutely. And just to be clear, I'm not advocating for any restrictions. In fact,
Yeah.
as I indicated initially, you know, we looked at this from a First Amendment issue first, from U.S. Supreme Court precedents. There's no issue with respect to the fact that government does not lack the freedom to select the messages that it wants to convey. So that's up to you in order to instruct me, what would you like your policy to be? So I understand where you're coming from, and I'll try to craft something consistent with this discussion this evening.
Thank you.
Julie?
Given the line you just said, Anthony, so then does that mean that if a group approaches us, then we are within our rights to say no to the group, right? Because that's the biggest concern we're dealing with, right? Is we wouldn't have the right to say no. Do we have the right to say no?
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. Supreme Court is clear on that. From a hyper-technical First Amendment analysis of this issue, really the free speech clause is non-applicable to government speech. So you have the right to select the message that you want to convey. All I'm saying is, while you may have that right, and the Supreme Court precedent may be clear with respect to that, that does not forestall a group from coming to you saying, we're not going to adopt that, that doesn't stop them from suing you. That doesn't stop the borough from incurring legal fees. So while the law may be clear with respect to a certain issue, I tell clients this all the time, it doesn't stop someone from running to court and filing a spurious lawsuit that's going to cost the taxpayers of Tenafly money to defend. So from my perspective, You know, and I think this is where other towns sort of take the position of, we'd rather not go down that slippery slope. We'd rather just adopt the policy that says we're not going to use public property, whether it's parks, whether it's Borough Hall, or otherwise, to demonstrate any political messages. We're set. That's our policy on that, just to keep it clean. Obviously, Tenafly doesn't appear that they want to be one of those towns. They want to have a policy where they can raise some flags consistent with the messages that you want to select. So that's fine. I'm just giving you the full rubric of what's out there and what the law is.
Okay. Anthony, when do you think you'd have a first pass on that for us, for the council to review?
I can have it for our next meeting.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you, Anthony, for next meeting. All right, so the next topic to be considered is the COA development of Serpentine Road. And what you have in your package are first thing is from Tom Toronto at United Way, 4 pages of rough sketches and an elevation of what United Way is proposing. And then there's a 1-page from Catholic Charities explaining what they would propose. And these were very rough first pass sketches, did not cost the borough anything, and there was no commitment on anyone's part when they supplied these to us. Bergen County Department of Housing, John Bialy, when they come back to the office from their COVID shutout, they will also supply us with a concept sketch. Lauren?
So actually, this was one of the questions I had written in, but you know, the email didn't get sent. What is our settlement requirement in terms of housing units? What is what in this area? What are we zoning here?
Okay, so
maybe Lizette knows it.
Yeah, I mean, Lizette, you want to answer, but that's a very broad-based question because our COA requirements are in the multitudes of hundreds of units. And,
correct.
Right, so just to back up for a second, in terms of status, we purchased 3 properties, and we're going around with the folks at the courts to get permission to close on the 4th property, and then once we do that, then we can pick out the developer that we'll make a deal with to build the properties. So, Lizette, if you want to address, if you happen to know the numbers of our COA obligation, but everything we would build here would specifically go towards our COA obligations. And that's a very,
of course.
Yeah. Lizette?
Yes, and that area is zoned residential. One of the units that was purchased is a multi-family unit. I don't know if that's grandfathered. So depending if there has to be a zoning change before anything, that that could be done within 7 weeks if that's necessary, but without having the information ahead of time due to our network problems, I cannot specifically state if that's a single family zone and that multifamily was grandfathered in or whatnot.
Do you know if we need a certain number of units in a certain year?
A certain number of units in a certain year? Is that what your question was? No, the COA obligations don't work that way. So we've got we agreed with the Council on Affordable Housing and the courts for X number of units. It's about 400. Don't quote me on that. And then what happens is we have an obligation to meet that, not by a particular date, but as an ongoing responsibility. So if we decide to build a 100% affordable location here, then all this will go towards that obligation. The Clinton Inn, for instance, wants to put in the assisted living facility. There's X amount of obligation that has to be met. I think it's, again, don't quote me, 10% of assisted living facilities have to be for affordable housing. So we meet obligations there. If someone comes up and puts a 10-unit condo complex in somewhere and 10% of them have to be affordable, then we have one more that we've met there. So as each piece of land gets developed or property gets developed, we have to, in good faith, put aside a portion of that as we go towards meeting our overall obligation.
The reason, go ahead.
I had a question.
The type of affordable housing hasn't been decided, has it?
No,
like
so
for seniors or blah blah blah.
So right? So there are things that are not, it changes. So for instance, a strictly senior citizen housing no longer meets the affordable housing requirements. What both United Way and Catholic Charities and even Bergen County are thinking here is veterans housing and/or disabled veterans housing. And there's different requirements because sometimes you have to have a certain percentage of family housing, not just one-bedroom apartments for veterans. So, but there is no decision. The council is the lead agency on this. So that ultimately is the council is completely involved in that entire negotiating process with whoever we
Gotcha.
choose, right?
So if we say it's got to 100% has to be for disabled veterans, they design it based on that.
That's correct. This is
Gotcha.
this is not the planning board's decision. This is the council's decision.
No, I got you. I got you. Just want to make sure that was the order
Right.
of events.
That's why on these sketches they're really showing you bedrooms, how many floors, approximate numbers. They haven't gotten into the qualitative aspects of it. We're not there yet. Lauren.
One of them has more apartments than the other, and that would go towards to satisfying more of our obligation.
Right.
That's the way it works.
If one particular, yes, that's correct. If someone has 20 units, we've met 20 as opposed to 15 with someone else.
Yeah, just to confirm, the obligation is 501 units from the third round, 159 from prior rounds, and rehabilitation required is 4. And the governing body approved various overlay zones, affordable housing, AHO zones a couple years ago. That was the first step in compliance with the settlement with fair share housing.
What was that first number?
501 and then 159 with 4 rehabs per the planner's documents, per Joe Burgess's plan.
Yeah, the 159 is for prior obligations. Any other? Go ahead.
I was kind of hoping this would come in with 60, 40. It's 16 units just doesn't seem to be making much headway.
Well, so I mean that becomes a zoning question. The property is a particular size. I think in both of these initial sketches, the maximum they've gone is 3 stories, and they've stayed within our zoning requirements. If the council, after sitting down with the organizations, wants to push for a higher number, that's your prerogative. But that's going to affect building height, building width, lot coverage, things of that nature. So when the initial passes are always to make proposals that meet current zoning requirements.
The other thing on that is parking too, because I see the one proposal has 9 parking spots for 20 units. So those kind of things do have potential impact on neighborhoods. Just in keeping with what you were saying there, that's one of the big impacts.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably the Catholic Charities thinking about disabled veterans. There's often situations where statistically less cars are being driven by the residents there. One of the positives of this particular location is that it's in walking distance to a public transportation, literally a block and a half away. On Dean Drive and Ivy Lane are bus stops that go in and out of New York City and Hackensack and things of that nature. So people are able to move around without having to need automobiles. Any other questions on that, Julie?
So when I click on the UW3, it shows 16 units like Lauren was referring to. But then I click on the last link, which says Catholic Charity, and then it says 21 bedroom units. So you said these are just different options, but one's 16 and one's 20. Is that the deal?
Right. So the first one, the first 4 pages or so are from you. Okay. And the last one is from Catholic Charities. They're different organizations, and that they're proposing different things. Now, keep in mind, each of these organizations have different funding mechanisms. They have different sweet spots in terms of the type of housing they're used to managing, and so they're going to do things that basically fit into their wheelhouse, right? So Catholic Charities isn't going to. You can't say to Catholic Charities, we want you to do a project, but do it the way United Way would do it. Then you just go to United Way, and vice versa.
So these proposals, whether it's the 16 or the 20, all of the units would go toward the affordable housing
Yes,
requirements? Okay.
yes, all of it would be for 100% affordable housing.
Okay.
So does that mean the United Way proposal has no parking?
No, they do have parking there.
Sorry, am I missing it?
On the first, on UW1, they're
Yeah.
showing, actually, they're showing a lot more spots, including
Yeah.
2 handicap spots.
So United Way's parking is,
Oh, I'm sorry, 2, UW2.
Hold on, sorry, I'm on
United
one.
Way has about 15 parking spots there or so.
Oh, I don't know how I just totally went right over that.
Right, underneath the building,
Okay.
Catholic Charities has it adjacent to the building.
Mm-hmm. Actually, the underneath the building's a nice option.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we wanted to technically zone another floor here, what is the procedure?
The Borough Council has the authority to rezone particular areas, just like we did with the assisted living facility at Brightview. The entire area was rezoned on the council's decision. The council can decide to do that here also. Vanu, are you trying to speak? We can't hear you. Vanu, you're on mute.
Vanu is muted.
He's muted. Okay. All right. Any other questions on this?
When are we
Vanu?
getting the last one?
We're waiting for the county to provide theirs. They don't have a time for us yet. And really the next step with this, as soon as the court gives us permission to close on the 4th property, I'll report that back to the council, and then we'll be able to start entertaining proposals in earnest from the different organizations. Okay. Any other questions? All right. The next item on the agenda is the Woodland Street signs. Lizette, you want to speak about this one a little bit?
Yes, when the governing body received this request from the residents of Woodland Street, I was tasked to find out with Chief Chamberlain for his recommendation if the street warrants that type of signage. And the chief advised that, as I wrote in my memo, that he has no issue with the residents seeking to purchase the traffic calming signs as long as they meet the appropriate standards from the DOT and whatnot. And he did identify that Woodland Street is unique in that people use that as a cut-through street, and speeding is an issue in which they receive complaints about. So instead of having temporary signs, permanent signs would be more of a mitigating factor. And if since the signs would be donated, the police department budget would absorb the maintenance and servicing.
Questions from council? Is everyone okay with this or not okay with it, or what's the consensus? Vanu, go ahead.
Yeah. I think I raised the question before. I mean, I understand that we I don't know if we necessarily want to get in the habit of having people on a certain street paying for their signs. So having neighbor-funded street signs throughout the town, just because there are certain places where people are a little more together and cohesive and have the money and the funds to bring together to buy signs. Other communities may not. So I don't know that we want to get into that habit, if you take my meaning. That's
Okay.
a view.
Yep. Other comments? So, Lizette, do we need to get a consensus from the council about whether they want to approve this or not?
Yes, I need a consensus from the majority to go either way, so I know how to move forward.
So do you want to, go ahead, Lauren, you have a question?
I just want to make sure there's absolutely no ongoing fees or maintenance if these individual residents purchase this sign.
Lizette?
Chief Chamberlain said that he believes there would be maintenance and servicing, but their budget could absorb it. The police department budget can absorb it. The actual monetary amount that had not been quantified.
What happens if this sign, there's no liability here for this, right? If the sign fell on somebody or anything like that?
Signs would be part of the borough infrastructure, so whether it's a sign or a sidewalk or a street light, there's liability to the borough.
So the sign becomes the property of the borough?
Correct.
Any other questions of the council members? So, Lizette, what, if you could please poll the council for a consensus one way or the other?
Okay. Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
No.
Councilmember O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'll reach out to Peter and have him coordinate with Chief Chamberlain to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Lizette. Andy Hippolyte, are you here? Lizette, can you unmute Andy, please?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Jeff, I asked Andy to join us here over this sidewalk issue. Do you want to tee this up? Do you want me to do it? And you're muted, Jeff.
I'm more prepared to talk about the sidewalk issue dealing with the Presbyterian Church than this, but
That's what we're talking about, right?
oh, I thought this had to do with the letter request for Magnolia to have extended sidewalks.
No, that's under correspondence. I'm adding it to be considered because it's an emergent issue that the council needs to hear and vote on.
Absolutely.
Can someone catch us all up on what topic we're talking?
Let me do that. Then I can
do that.
All right. So we have to back it up a few months ago. There's 47, I believe it's number 47 Magnolia, which is just south of the Presbyterian Church. That area is a historic district. And early this year, the Presbyterian Church, which owns that house, asked the Historic Preservation Commission, they did what's called an application for certificate of appropriateness. They wanted to reinstall, they had an asphalt sidewalk and they wanted to redo it. The HPC considered it and they said that that's not in keeping with the look of the historic district, that they had two choices. They could either take it out and put in grass, or they could put in bluestone. Bluestone is in keeping with that historic district. They were fine. They understood that. I think they just got delayed in doing it. Fast forward to last week, they actually had someone hired who took out the asphalt and was getting ready to put in dirt and grass seed when along came the milling machines. They couldn't get to the site. Somewhere in there, something happened where our contractor doing the milling thought that maybe they had messed up the sidewalk. They poured fresh asphalt all along there. Now, that should be a no-brainer. The HPC said you can't have a sidewalk that's asphalt there. They were willing to take it out. The Presbyterian Church, I will tell you, I've been in touch with their treasurer who may be listening. They're not happy because they were trying to do the right thing. They had hired someone. They were spending money to have this removed. And then we come along and our contractor just asphalts it over again. So the only thing we really need is for a consensus of the council for the contractor who did the work to go ahead and just remove the mistake they did of putting asphalt in. They just need to remove it. They can put dirt and grass down as it was supposed to be, and as the property owner is willing to do and wants to do, but it's unfair to make the property owner then go and expend money to remove this again. So that's the long and short.
Lauren? You're muted, Lauren. You're muted.
This is my corner, so I watched this all actually take place. I actually drove down there. Couple things. First of all, the bluestone, because I'm in this historic district right around, is a disaster, and we should move away from it. There's bluestone outside of my own home that is constantly cracked and in need of repair. It is incredibly expensive to replace, hence why I never replace mine. It is something that the HPC should reconsider not recommending, and I strongly say this, given the delicateness of the stone. So
that's why, it's because of the cost that the HPC has said that you do have the option of turning it back to grass. They gave that option and said they didn't mandate bluestone. They just said asphalt is not at all in keeping. And I think since you saw what they did, I think you'd agree that's definitely not in keeping.
So I can't say enough how much I enjoy having the sidewalks locally. We walk to town all the time on Magnolia past the church. I appreciate the safety of the sidewalks. I appreciate that there's now an asphalt sidewalk and curbing there. My vote would not be to remove it. My vote would be to leave it and save the cost for the church and stop this mess of putting in the bluestone because it's more historic looking. It's cracked all over the place around here. It looks disastrous. It doesn't give the appeal of old, it gives the appeal of shoddy.
Well, two things. Number one, that particular section of sidewalk stops at the driveway of that house. It doesn't extend any further to the south. It literally is for the whoever lives in the Presbyterian Church's manse, as I understand it, that house, to just be able to walk to the church. Again, they're happy going in that, since it really doesn't service a population, they're more than happy to turn it back to grass, which is what most of that area is. So we would need to first, before we're letting asphalt as a sign of our historic districts, we would need a complete change of definition for HPC. But this was a mistake made by a contractor. The property owner was trying to do the right thing. And it's a question of, do we just let that mistake sit, or do we correct or ask the contractor to correct the mistake? The property owner is happy having that restored to grass and dirt. Again, it doesn't serve any more than about, what is that, about 25, 30 feet.
Right, so the reason this question is before us, before the council, is because even though it was a mistake in putting down the blacktop, it's technically a sidewalk now, and the council has to vote to have a consensus to remove a sidewalk and return it back to grass. And so we don't want to double down on the mistake. We want to get the consensus tonight so it could be repaired to its proper former self.
Is the property owner on the call tonight?
I'm not aware. I don't know. I don't know.
Because I'd like to know if they are interested in keeping a sidewalk. The bluestone is beyond expensive. I've been looking at it for 10 years.
But they're not doing bluestone.
I'm just saying I'd rather have an asphalt sidewalk than no sidewalk.
Well, at the risk of speaking for the owner, I mean, they were in the process of putting down, ripping up the blacktop, putting down dirt and grass to return it to its natural state of nature, if you will. So anyway, any other questions?
So in terms of timeline, it's like we force a sidewalk on them?
Can we what?
So if we went back in time and we didn't have all these facts, it would look like we forced a sidewalk on this house.
There was one.
No, they took it out. We came back. And we forced one on them.
Yeah, no,
We
Andy,
made them take it out.
Andy, do you want to weigh
me
in
to
a little
jump
bit?
in?
Yeah, just explain to us, please.
Yeah, so there was an existing broken sidewalk there. It was in disrepair. It shouldn't have stayed in its condition. Our contractor came through as part of the job, and we were replacing the curb in front of the sidewalk. When he took out the curb, the sidewalk was in such disrepair, he wrecked all of it. He said, I wrecked it. It's my dollar. I'm not going to charge it. I'm just going to put it back. It's easier just to put it back than have to come and leave a patch on a half crappy sidewalk. Contractors of the size we use have multiple crews. So he had a curb crew. He had a crew to come prep the sidewalk to be replaced, and he had a separate crew to pave it. So his curb crew came in and disturbed it. He called his restoration crew to go rip it up to get ready for paving, left, came back the next day, and that same time the church hired somebody to go out there and grade the area and get it ready to put grass in. The contractor came back next day and said, wow, my prep crew fixed it all up. And he called his paving crew there right in town. They came and paved it. So it was kind of it was stupid, but it happened. He acknowledges that it's his fault. If you want it out, he'll take it out at no cost. He didn't put it in at any cost. He never should have disturbed it. So it's just a matter of you deciding. The church was there prepping it with the intention of leaving it grass. I can tell you that.
And I don't know if the person I've been in touch with today was Richard Bauer, who's the treasurer at the church. I don't know if he's called in or not tonight. I gave him the info.
I would like to hear from the property owner.
I can't see all who are on this.
There's a Richard Bauer on the call, Jeff.
Okay.
Can we hear from him?
Is that you, Mr. Bauer?
Yes,
So
I have called in.
Okay, so can you weigh in on this, please, for the council members?
Okay, we have owned the property going back to 150 years. And
Impressive.
there was a sidewalk going down to the end of our property, all of those years. The insurance company came along last year and noted that the sidewalk was crumbling and asked us to replace it. We then went to the town, and the town said no, you had to put in bluestone. There is no bluestone on that side of Magnolia Avenue. The
That's right.
bluestone is on the opposite side. So then we opted to take it out and to go to grass, and that's where we stand at this point.
Can I ask if you were able to keep the asphalt sidewalk, are you interested in that?
If we could keep it, we would, yes.
I don't know why we have to tear it up. It's a safety thing, keeps people off the street. It's a sidewalk.
Right.
It's great.
All right. So
Question for Jeff.
wait, before I know what your question's going to be, Dan. But before we do that, we need to think. We have a commission that we have charged with making decisions. We have given them certain parameters for the decision. A council designated this as a historic district. not a historic property, but a district with a certain look. Those looks are things that that board doesn't take lightly. If we sit there and say, well, you know what, they gave a certificate of appropriateness, we don't like it, we are totally undermining the authority. We might as well just hold the Historic Preservation Commission at that point, because we're sitting in their stead where they spend time researching this, looking at it, looking at the history, and we're going to just sit there and say, nope, we don't like their decision because we want something in particular that's going to just, we might as well, as I say, then get rid of our commission.
Wait, hold on. Dan was next, Lauren.
Dan, you had a question.
Yep, Dan.
If the old sidewalk was asphalt, why doesn't it grandfather it in with new with it's asphalt now?
Because when you're replacing something that's been grandfathered, if you're fixing it, that's one thing. If you're replacing it, you then have to bring it into conforming standards.
Gotcha.
And
Lauren?
this would have been a total replacement. This was broken and not in great condition.
Lauren?
So I hear you on the HPC, but here's my issue. The HPC says they will make accommodations when there's a differential in price. When something is so exorbitantly more expensive to maintain the historic look and feel, they will allow the property owner to not do it and to have, you know, a fake facade or something. In this case, I can tell you from my personal experience, the bluestone is outrageously expensive, difficult to maintain, hard to get in. You know, I've been trying to replace my own bluestone that I could literally see the church behind me. If you look out my window, I could see down the hill at the Presbyterian Church. And the bluestone across my entire street here, it's just impossible to afford. So here we have an issue where they chose not to take the more expensive route of affording the, you know, bluestone, which would have the historic look and feel, and they were going to straight grass, which doesn't allow for any safety measures, you know, of pedestrians. So to me, I feel like between the expense of the bluestone and the safety of the sidewalk, I feel like it's not that we're undermining the HPC, but that we're making an educated decision to move in a direction that would be better for the property owner.
You know, I think what we're trying to do here is, you know, correct a mistake. And then if we don't correct the mistake that's been made, you know, we start going down the road of, then we're going to have people are going to start making more mistakes. And then there's not going to be any recourse to it. I mean, you know, as Jeff said, the Historic Preservation Commission has been given the authority to make these decisions and make exceptions to them. And I don't think it would be appropriate for us to just override the work that they do.
So here's my suggestion. Why doesn't the property owner and the HPC have a conversation about this? And if the property owner wants to keep the asphalt sidewalk, ask for an accommodation to the HPC. So that way it's not in us, in our council making this decision, but it's in the HPC allowing them to keep the asphalt.
Yeah, go ahead. Jeff.
That's what was done initially. That's what the application for certificate of appropriateness is. It's the chance to have that conversation, to explore it. It's not just HPC sitting in a vacuum. They do, I don't know, I can't represent that they met with this property owner, but they do, to my knowledge, every time they get one of these. Mm-hmm. And that's why their accommodation for a 20-foot long section of sidewalk or 30-foot long section that doesn't go anywhere south of that point, their accommodation was to be consistent with the rest of the side of the street, which is grass. And that they weren't forcing them to spend the money on a bluestone sidewalk.
Well, with the mistake, though, there's new information.
That side of the street going south is grass.
I'd like the sidewalk.
All right, so let's ask for a consensus here, right? Lizette, do you want to poll the council, please?
No, I'm saying it should go back to the HPC. Can we ask if whether we should have that question first? With this new information, the mistake made, should the HPC reconsider? Should the HPC be given this information?
Well, I mean, if the council wants to go back to the HBC, if you want to start with
Yeah.
that question, we can certainly take a quick poll of that and see where we go. But they
I
have.
will tell you, the HPC is very aware of this. We have one member who literally lives right across the street, who is the one who alerted me basically as it was happening. They're not happy. Now, we can send it back for a conversation, but they feel, look, we spoke on this matter. The town went and then did what we did, and we are just asking to correct the mistake. We're not asking to install sidewalk at this point. We're asking to correct a mistake.
All right,
We want to have that conversation later on after this mistake is corrected and say, should they, have a sidewalk there that's asphalt, or should historic districts have a greater array of choices? That's a conversation for later. But right now, there's a mistake made that we need to correct or address.
What does Mr. Bauer want to do?
We would at this point be okay to have the situation corrected at no cost to the church.
Yeah, so I think that kind of addresses that, and there is, Mr. Bauer is correct, there's no cost to the church on any of this, correct, Andy?
There's no cost to the church or the borough.
Okay, all right, so then let's ask for a consensus from the council about how whether it's yes or no in terms of moving forward with correcting, yes is to correct this mistake. Was that?
Okay. Councilmember Dayton?
No, leave the asphalt.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon? I think I lost Vanu. Councilmember O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Can I, wait, while we're still talking about that, can I actually discuss with Andy the paving that happened on Magnolia? Because there's a few issues and while I got you, and we're talking about this corner. So one of the corner of Magnolia and Laurel had a puddle that went for about 3 feet. And so what they did is they paved over on Magnolia, but they didn't kind of curve it around into Laurel. So it rained the past few days and it just pooled the same puddle, just shifted it higher. They didn't solve any of that problem, and it's just going to erode. The water is about this deep. I actually stuck my foot into it, and it covered my entire top of my sneaker.
So let me go look. I wasn't aware of that. Let me go look at that. I'll look at it tomorrow. I mean, if they have to, they could come and we can do more of the intersection.
And the rest of it is the curbing that was done. In some places, they made beautiful, brand new white curbs. In other places, they took rock and tar and just stuck it in the holes instead of making the new curbs.
Right. So we only have a limited amount of curb to use. We only do it where we have potential problems with the curbs. It hurts the integrity of the road. So if they're coming by with the paving machine, the curb isn't spotting it, they'll just literally fill it in and keep going because it just helps the paving.
Okay. I mean, it just looks like it's about to crumble right now.
It won't. It'll hold in there. That's the best we can do at this point. You don't have the dollars to replace the curb in every street. That would increase the cost of the job, the project by double.
I mean,
I'll take a look at that. I'll look at Magnolia tomorrow.
It's spotted all the way down into Magnolia towards the elementary school. You'll see the curb, and there's a lot of old rusty equipment that they pulled out, sewers and drainage, and I think manholes that are sitting on the sidewalks right now, and they don't seem super safe. I know the kids are down there riding bikes, and they're passing these old rusty things. Are they going to get removed?
I would think they'd remove them. They would have removed them today, but I guess they haven't. So we'll call and have them do it right away.
Okay, thank you. And that I just happened to be on this one street that got paved, but if anyone else has any information on the other ones getting paved, we should check them.
You said it directly there on the contractor moved through pretty quickly as a couple of streets left. He'll come back. He'll probably spend, because of the number of streets, about 2 weeks in town doing punch list stuff. But anything that's unsafe, if you see something unsafe, tell us right away. We'll have them address it right away.
This is definitely unsafe. It's all around, it's all through Magnolia.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that's it for to be considered. Moving on to correspondence. The first item on the agenda. And thank you, by the way, Andy, for being with us tonight. I appreciate
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
No problem.
Yeah,
Do you
thank
need me to stay or should I go?
I don't think there's any, Jeff, I don't think there's any other topics for Andy.
Maybe
No,
the first
also-
correspondence, though, you should stay through that.
The first letter is,
I thank Mr. Bauer for weighing in.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
thank you, sir. So the first bit of correspondence is Magnolia Avenue. Our resident, Angela Leone, is asking for curbs on
Sidewalk.
sidewalks on the northern section between Prospect Terrace and Hudson Avenue. And how does she get the borough to agree to put sidewalks and community action and things like that? Does anyone Andy, what do you think? Any of the council members want to weigh in?
I mean, Carl, it's just a cost factor. So the sidewalk can be put in at any time. If it's inside the historic district, I think you guys have made the decision. It's got to be Bluestone, which, it's 3 times the cost. It's just the money. If you have the money for it, you can do it. In a lot of cases, when somebody builds a new house, we ask them to put the sidewalk in. So if a new house is being built, we'd make them do it. It's really kind of your policy decision and money to spend.
So,
question.
excuse me?
Dan had his hand raised.
Oh, Dan, go ahead, Dan.
Nope, sorry, that's an old question.
Old question, the new?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who lives on Magnolia, so it's the side of Magnolia that's north of the school, of Mom's school, that we're talking about. The rest of it is kind of paved one side or the other. So the question is, we have a couple of houses that have been recently built, and one that is currently being built. I don't know that there was ever a request for a sidewalk to be put in for that house. So that's just kind of an open question, I guess. But in terms of putting it in, I mean, I would be in favor of it because we do have a lot of children walking along that street because it's close to the school and they have to go back to other tutors and things like that. So I think there's a bit of a mess there when they have to walk in the grass.
So what? Go ahead, Jeff. You're on mute, Jeff. Go ahead, please.
Trying to unmute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I was having my computer's lagging a little. So the only two things, I think sidewalks are good. And I believe that north of Mom's School is not part of the historic district. So that's not an issue. The only thing, and this is my own personal experience, having lived and breathed sidewalks being put in front of my house and all my neighbors, before we have any meaningful discussion, I think it is incumbent on us to send letters to all of the residents who could potentially be impacted, saying we're going to have this discussion, please join it. I do not want to see what happened on my block where some people were finding out literally after the council had already made the decision. Some people were finding out practically on the eve of the installation. It was a mess and it wasn't fair to the neighborhood. So that would be my only real ask, is that the residents there, and I know Andy probably remembers how it went down on this.
I do.
Have to send letters notifying people, anyone who's going to end up with a potential sidewalk, that they should join the discussion. That's it.
Sure, I would agree with that recommendation.
So I have a recommendation. If the council so desires it, perhaps we schedule this conversation for a work session in September, when everyone's back from wherever they may be, and perhaps there'll be an opportunity to have more people on the call, or maybe even be in person. And in the meantime, send a communication, a letter to all the residents on this street that there is going to be just a conversation to gauge interest. And then we go from there. If there's no interest, Doesn't move forward. Vanu, you were first, then Lauren.
Right. So since we're talking about Magnolia and since we have Andy on the line, could I ask, is the intention to pave the part of Magnolia north of the school as well? Because the rest has been paved, that's not paved.
That would be your next, that would probably be in next year's paving program. So the intention would be yes.
Oh, okay, but not for this year. I mean, because everything else was done except for that.
Correct. It would probably be next year's paving program.
Right. Okay.
Lauren?
So I do like the idea about sending the notices, Jeff. I absolutely agree. Very good idea. I do not think we should wait till September. I think this will be a controversial issue that we will need to flush out. I would prefer to send the notices sooner. Next week, 2 weeks, that we will have the discussion in August. Start the discussion in August. It will lead all the way into September. But more importantly, two things. I'd like to know, Andy, the Safe to School grant. I know that we had looked into that. It was more expensive. How would it work in this area? And would the schools be able to coordinate with us to fund some of this? And two, what would be, the cost? I'd need to see those before I think a conversation move forward here.
So the Safe Routes to School grant for this, it's such a small project that the amount of engineering, specifically because it's adjacent to a historic district or even part of maybe overlapping a historic district, I mean, you'd probably be looking at engineering costs upwards of over $100,000 just to put in a sidewalk, which, you can put the sidewalk in for that. So I wouldn't recommend that. As far as the school sharing costs with the borough, I've seen plenty of schools share costs with boroughs where there's a sidewalk that serves the school and the borough, and together they both share the same money generally anyway, but they use their budgets to have one project to put a sidewalk in. It happens all the time. So I think it's a viable project.
I will say that I have heard from many residents, and I walk this one. I'm a completely biased mom who takes my kids here to school every day. So I have heard from many residents who also were looking to extend the sidewalk up Hudson, because kids are walking on that street, incredibly dangerous with cars flying down. That's a large hill. So Hudson, Hillside, Magnolia. So if I were to look at the grant, I might look to extend the sidewalk program. But again, that would require significant more notice, a lot more controversy.
Right. If you're going to do a Safe Routes to School grant, what you're talking about adding in 3 or 4 more streets is by far the right way to go. Get the school to adopt a route or a plan you can use. And then go forward with that, because you're going to want a grant that's somewhere between $400,000 to $1 million, because that needs to offset the engineering costs you have. And if you got involved in a project that big, the state provides pre-qualified engineering firms that they qualify that you'd probably use to do that, and the costs are fixed and you get reimbursed for it. The process takes years. So if you were to get a grant next year, you probably wouldn't see sidewalk until 2026. We got a very large grant in the borough of New Providence, 2 different years, each were $440,000. They now have almost $1 million. They hired NV5, one of the DOT grant companies, and we're 2 years in and we don't even have a concept plan yet. Because you need public input, historic review, surveys of every property, right-of-way surveys. It's a very detailed process because it's state money that's tied to federal dollars.
Okay.
But you get the sidewalk.
Okay, so it sounds like the council wants to do this at the August work session? Right? I'm hearing no no's and 1 yes. Okay, so Lizette?
Yes.
Let's put this on what's the date of this meeting in August?
17th.
So let's put this on the work session, and you and I can have an offline conversation about communicating with all the residents on that street.
Okay.
Mayor, if I can make a suggestion, because I've done this before in multiple communities. On a street like this, we're going to put sidewalk, and I would do one of 2 things. I would definitely send letters to all the houses, if not certified letters, say no. You guys have a great reverse 911 system. You could also call the residents that way, and obviously put it on your website. The more notice, the better. And the reason I say that, if you decide to go for a Safe Routes to School grant, you have to prove you had public input and that you didn't force somebody to do this. It's very important. So the certified letters, the website, and then the reverse 911's proof that you actually did it, because you'll need to do it 3 times if you go the grant route.
Okay. No, that's good advice. this entire idea is completely subject to the public's opinion and their viewpoint on whether they want this or not. So I think we're all on the same page with that. This is about what the community in that neighborhood wants.
Great.
Okay. All right. I think Andy, we're good. Thank you very much for your time.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
Andy.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Bye.
You too. Okay, so
Andy, thank you.
the next communication is from John Moya. Lizette, you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yes, Mr. Moyer had been in communications with health inspector with Ruby about wanting to place a food truck at parking lot G or Demarest Plaza. Both are on Piermont Road on borough parking lots, and there is no ordinance either allowing or prohibiting food trucks. So for Ruby to take any action to inspect and verify, first the issue of placement has to be discussed. And so I told Ruby, it's not my discretionary decision. There's no ordinance for me to reference to guide you. So she told Mr. Moyer to send me an item of correspondence for the council meeting.
So.
And Mr. Moyer appears to be on as well in case you have questions.
He happens to be online here in case any of the council members have questions. Could I just ask everyone, if you're not speaking, just please mute yourself. There's a lot of background noise coming through sometimes. Thank you. Council members have a question or comments about this this request from Mr. Moyer?
Are all the permits and paperwork in?
So, Lizette, how does that work? He just gets Mr. Moyer is saying he has his mobile food permits. Does the council want to hear from Mr. Moyer? So, Mr. Moyer, Lizette, why don't you unmute Mr. Moyer?
Yes, he's unmuted.
Hey, John.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yes. Doing great.
The council has a couple of first question. Thanks for calling in, and thank you for the letter. First question council has is whether you have permits and how does that work with health departments and things of that nature?
I purchased a permit through Lindsey Graham about 2 weeks ago. In contact with the traffic officer in regards to where I could park it. I just did 2 parking lots, Demarest Plaza and parking lot G, I believe, or D, one of the 2, all right next to each other. And then I've been in conversation with Ruby in regards to a health inspection, and we're probably going to do it maybe tomorrow.
And so could you explain to the council where you're suggesting parking your truck?
Right across from where Axia is, there's about 2 blocks. The Demarest Plaza parking lot is, I would assume it's for gourmet, but I'm not 100% sure. I couldn't really tell what Demarest Plaza is in town. And then the next parking lot is right past it, and I got word from the traffic officer that the lot is kind of run by the railroad company, and he wasn't very clear on how to further that lot. So I will follow up with him then.
So where is that exactly? That the railroad? So the borough has the rights to use the parking in almost all the railroad locations. I can't answer for the particular spot, but we can certainly confirm that for you at Borough Hall. But where is it?
Demarest Plaza runs from an intersection right in front of Mr. Walk, where it's
right.
River Edge Road and Piermont. But that's lot H. So G and H are both CSX properties that the borough leases and issues commuter parking permits for those sites as well. I believe H may have residential parking permits.
So part of it was find out when, I know the time restriction would seek about 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. The Demarest Plaza parking lot, what I've noticed throughout the last couple of weeks of inspecting it is fairly empty. But with a mobile food truck, there really is endless possibilities in where the town I could really park it and set up shop. The really only kind of place that I would set up in front of the food truck is maybe a couple folding tables, and maybe like a cooler or something for drinks, but it's really small space. And partially my thought is people could park elsewhere and walk up to, my place. I know we have a concert tomorrow at 7 o'clock in town, so I could park really, at that Demarest, it is visible from the concert location. So it's really, I guess, I'm really flexible on where I could park it.
Lauren?
I'd be very excited for this if we can get this done. I have a few things. One, I think since we leased that space from CSX, we would need their permission to have a food venue there. I can't imagine that we're allowed to just put a food truck on CSX property. That's one. Number two, if we're interested in setting up tables, I just have to make sure that they're in compliance with all of our downtown dining ordinance, 6 feet apart. They can't be 6 feet from the line. So, you'd have to map that out and get Ruby to help you. She's been out there with measuring tapes, helping the businesses.
Okay.
But other than that, as long as CSX says yes.
Yeah, I have.
Well, we can check the lease. Obviously we have the CSX leases, so we can check tomorrow to see what the limitations of our rights on those leased properties are.
Okay.
But is your thought that the truck would bring it up there or park every day, then leave and then take it back to your overnight parking spot every night?
No, it would be more I would go to 2 different locations for the day for a lunch shift and a dinner shift. Most likely one of those 2 shifts would be in Tenafly, and then the other shift would potentially be elsewhere. It goes in throughout the night, so maybe on a Friday and Saturday night, I would be somewhere closer to the city, which would be maybe until 3 in the morning or whatnot. But that would feature more of a late night food crowd. But in Tenafly, it would just be maybe a 4 to 5 hour kind of period of service.
What other council members want to weigh in? I mean, it sounds like an interesting idea. I can get food at 3 a.m.
I have some misgivings about it, of course, because of our actual brick and mortar restaurants. It's kind of the same thing that comes up when we talk about street fairs in general. A lot of our resident businesses have issues with, people who aren't here paying the taxes that they pay for their businesses going and doing that. So just want to say that it's definitely going to be something that's a consideration.
That's a good point, Julie. What kind of food do you serve, John?
It's a steaks truck. I would do steak sandwiches, but also have breakfast options. I did send the menu to Lisette if you have it, but there are, like I said, I do private events where we've had a ton of menu changes, and we can really flexible, but the main thing is steak, chicken, and vegetables, all kind of formed into sandwiches. But yeah.
Thank you. Lauren?
John, you mentioned in your email that you wanted to be headquartered in Tenafly. Are you looking to register your business here? Sorry, you're frozen.
That delivered, I intend to, it's mainly what it is. It's a day shipment, but I'm currently part-time at the Elks and then part-time at Axia.
I'm sorry to do this, but can you repeat that? You got a little cut up there.
You faded out there, John.
It was just for mobile food. Whether or not it could be to my house, but currently I have the thing parked overnight at Axia and then part-time at the Elks in town.
So are you, just to focus in on that, so you know the people at Axia?
Alex and my are close, yes.
So
So let's
how
park
do they
there.
feel, how do they, to Councilwoman O'Connor's question, how does Axia feel about you parking across the street from them, in terms of you doing business outside their restaurant?
We have
John?
like we never actually parked there. We've never actually parked there, but you know, it's like I said, it's public property there. We have the mobile food permit, and it is you know, we're trying to find public spots to really park, so it doesn't really, I guess, matter where we park. A lot of our food orders, I would say 40% are mobile orders too. So we do have some deliveries too. So it doesn't really matter where we are in town.
Okay, so how does the council feel about this? I'd like to get, Jeff, go ahead. Jeff?
Yeah, my question, John, because you actually just raised it a few minutes ago about potential of like bread delivery could be to your house. Where's stuff being delivered now, or where do you envision it being delivered?
It necessarily need to have things delivered. If it's a possibility to have it delivered to my house, then I could certainly do that. But I don't necessarily need anything delivered. I can completely operate without any deliveries.
All right, because my only concern, based on what you said, would be having delivery trucks. And I know bread delivery, for example, is super early in the morning. Having delivery trucks in a residential neighborhood going to your house would not make you guys popular with your next door neighbors.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my view is, I think if we can get some sort of, and maybe John needs to think about this and come back with us or send us an email about location, so the council is comfortable with whatever this location is. And then certainly we can't have deliveries going to residential neighborhoods. That's, I'm sure, John, you're able to pick whatever you need up at the restaurant depots and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
To make that invisible to everyone.
Yes.
How does the council, do you want to do a consensus? Is everybody good with this? They'll get back to us with the location. Is that a yes?
Question.
Dan had a question.
Dan, go ahead, please.
How would, if it's on our property, to Julie's point, how would we make that competitive in terms of, like, let's on a quote unquote rent, if he's using public property to compete with a business in town?
Well, the question becomes, he would be on the streets where, the whole, again, maybe this is a question for Anthony, but if you have a mobile food license, you're able to park in public parking spots on the street to conduct your business. I mean, that's how that whole entire industry works. But I can't speak to the legal. Anthony, do you have any insight into that?
Sure, Mayor. Typically, most municipalities adopt an ordinance that sets forth a whole number of all these considerations that the governing body is mentioning with respect to license fees and in most ordinances designated as parking permits. Typically, there will be a parking permit fee, an annual fee, based on the time and length that the mobile food vendor is parked at a specific location. So in essence, if we had an ordinance, it would set forth, okay, the annual amount for this parking permit is $1,600 for a year or $2,500 vice versa. So, from my perspective, and not to stymie anything from happening within the town, I just think, we should consider, at least adopting an ordinance or a policy that sort of sets forth different concerns in terms of the health department, permitting, regulations that we want to adopt, enforcement, whether it's by the code enforcement officer or the police department or otherwise. There's just a whole host of issues that, an ordinance typically takes into account. I know that takes some time and that may delay Mr. Moyer's, operation, but it's something that I would be remiss if I didn't mention to the governing body that you all should at least consider before making a decision.
Okay, Vanu, then Lauren.
Yeah, maybe I missed this, but the mobile food permit is issued by who? By us, not our town.
Building department.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Thanks.
Lauren.
So Anthony, I hear you on the ordinance, but here's what I'm seeing. So I am seeing a Tenafly resident looking to run a business within our town to headquarter here to support our residents. My very first question was, did you get all your licensing, which all carries fees to our building department? He's going to have Ruby, our health inspector, be inspecting it. So if he fails inspection, he'll owe our municipal town and the county fees. So all of the things I think that Anthony might be concerned about putting in an ordinance or a checklist that John has already shown us he's done here. What he's doing is he's asking permission for the use of our downtown dining space. And to me, I can't, Julie, I hear you on the competition, but this still is our resident here who's running a business. It still is someone's livelihood here in town. And I think the downtown dining plan has room enough for a food truck. I don't see it as a true, I think it's a different niche than a true competitor to something like Axia, which is a really lovely night out. I really see this much more for like the younger crowd of 20s and 18s and lining up at John's truck. I'm not so well, and Mark, and the mayor. But I feel comfortable that the things that we would take another month to get into an ordinance are being done here. If our building department is issuing the permit, I don't think that our building department's going to let this food truck just come on our street without, all of the necessary paperwork. So I would hate to make this business lose a month of summer outdoor dining because of a delay. I think an ordinance is something we can consider also passing, but at the same time, I feel like there should be no need at this moment to halt this business from operating here.
And if I may, at the top of the permit, it says, this establishment will be licensed for date proposed only. Establishment will operate at a fixed location for no more than 7 days in connection. So it doesn't necessarily, it's a mobile food license that I purchased for $50 from the town. And whether or not I don't go consecutive days, it's not necessarily a continuous spot in Tenafly that I would necessarily be at. So the competition is there every single day, and I wouldn't necessarily do that.
And so you're thinking about the location on Piermont across from Axia.
Yes, and like I said, the reason why I wanted that more or less was there's a lot of, like, you can see it from the downtown, but it is a less, I guess, populated area, and it is shaded where I am.
Yeah, yes, no.
Just a question. Have we done any analyses on how this would impact traffic? I mean, if there are cars coming down Piermont, people pulling over to stop at the truck. I mean, how do we enforce that? People are going to park in actual spots and walk over. Where do we have? Do we have crosshatches going across the street? How do we regulate this?
Also, can we have an option to
have my hands up on the little corner thing, but I don't know if that's being monitored. Sorry, I have things to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Lizette had to step away for a second, so that's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can I speak now then?
Right. Go ahead, Julie.
Okay. So basically, I do think we have to listen to our attorney, but I'm looking at John's letter, and you were mentioning, so you said that your permit is for a $50 permit that would be 7 days or something, but not to go more than 7 days. I'm not entirely sure, but here what you're proposing is 4-hour spurts at a time, and it would be, I guess what you were just saying, lunch and dinner. So I'm not sure why we're running full steam ahead. I don't have the confidence Lauren does. I think we should listen to our attorney and make sure a lot of the questions are answered. Permits and all of it, and Venu's question too. I don't know why John has to come back with a proposal before we get Anthony to weigh in about what we need to question.
So, but interesting, I think, again, I'm not speaking for Lauren, but just to follow up what she said is Mr. Moyer has been granted permits based on already existing ordinances to operate a food truck in town. So those ordinances and Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, if he's been granted permits, that they must exist.
But Mark, let's be honest, we've not had anybody in town doing a food truck in the way that he's describing. It's not for months on end with lunch and dinner. That is what's being proposed, and that's not what has been occurring. So it's not like
it was a week.
Done
I
before.
thought it was a week, Julie.
What do you mean?
Isn't it a week, Julie?
It's confused. A 7-day permit.
Well, it's a 7-day permit, but I'm looking at the correspondence that he sent. Is it just for that's all you want to do this for? Is for 7 days?
And then he has a new permit.
Start a business here.
The permit just says you can't do 7 straight days in a row, and then you have to go to a different spot. To be clarified as a mobile, I guess I'm reading off the permit, to be clarified as a mobile vendor, they're encouraging you to move around, I guess.
Right. So for $50, he could be there the whole summer, which is what
it's $50 for the year. It's $50 for the year.
Yeah.
But if that's the way our ordinance is written, that's the way. I mean, it's not that he's not complying. That's what our building department says.
Right. But I'm just saying, back to my original point about the other, businesses, they're paying, more than $50. But I'm just saying the fact that this would be new. This hasn't been done.
It hasn't been. While it hasn't been done, it's still an excellent idea, and it's done in a lot of places. And we have ordinance.
I'm not so on board with it being an excellent idea. That's your opinion, but I mean.
So then the question becomes, what do we do? There's an existing ordinance. He's been granted a permit. So what? The topic is really about the location, because we already have ordinances on the books that allow this. Go ahead, Venu.
Am I wrong that, since it's a 7-day ordinance, it doesn't mean that he can't, and sorry, John, for talking as though you're not there, but, can it be that he's open for 6 days in a certain location, takes a day off, and then he's back at that same location for 6 days? I don't think, that's not in the spirit of being a mobile food, license, or permit, but that is a technicality. He could be a permanent fixture in the spot across from Axia.
Well, Lauren, wait, Lizette's back. Lizette, can you address this ordinance issue with mobile food trucks?
Yes, mobile food trucks, that's a temporary vendor permit. That is like for whenever there is a special event, like community night, when they have mobile food trucks, if they have that, or like street fairs. It's just temporary. From my understanding, my conversation with Ruby is that Mr. Moyer is looking for something more than what the temporary mobile food truck license would allow. And that's why I'm saying there is no ordinance about mobile food trucks either prohibiting or permitting them, so it could be at a set location or specified locations. And if the governing body wishes to proceed before giving Mr. Moyer the permission that he's seeking, if that's the consensus, an ordinance has to be created, adopted, and enacted.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Wait, can I just hold on a second, Mr. Moyer?
Mhm.
What does our ordinance allow for now? Tell me the parameters, and then tell me why this request is outside of those bounds, because I don't have it in front of me.
I don't have it in front of me either, but it's a temporary mobile food license for 7 days.
Every 7 days, Mr. Moyer would need to have a new license under our existing.
No, it's a 1 year.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges we have here right now is none of us have the ordinance in front of us. So we're not 100% clear on what the parameters that what exists and what doesn't exist. I mean, is that something, Anthony, you can pull up right away, or is that we need to
Clerk
do a little,
space.
Yeah, we need
Clerk
to do,
space has it immediately.
need to do a little homework on this one.
I can pull it. I can pull it up. I'll pull it
Mayor,
up.
This business is a very temporary business. Like I said, it's 4 hours at a time, and I've been banging to the beach a fair amount, and that's more or less the crowd I've been getting. Going to the Tenafly would more or less be almost occasionally, maybe once a week. Like I said, on Tuesday we're playing. You know, if I'm here every week for maybe a concert, that's maybe what I was thinking about doing, but it's more very temporary. I go from space to space very, very easily.
Understood. Anthony?
Mayor, if I may, I'm certainly not, like I said before, I'm certainly not trying to stymie Mr. Moyer's ability to operate his business in town. Maybe the middle ground approach is, given the fact that he's been issued permits and we're looking at this, he's allowed to operate under the permits. I'll take a look at the ordinance before tonight. I haven't looked at this issue, so I apologize for that. All I'm saying is that moving forward, to the extent that there are other requests that come in from other food vendors and it just makes sense to have an ordinance moving forward with set policies so that we're all on the same page and we're not doing this nilly-willy on a need basis as they come up. So there's a middle ground approach in terms of if he has a permit, well then potentially he should be allowed to operate under that permit, but we should consider internally moving forward if there's another Mr. Moyer that comes down the pike, or 3 or 4 or more, we need to have a policy set in place so that this doesn't, run rampant in the town, and we need to set parameters. That's all I'm suggesting.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Agree.
The ordinance
I
that
agree
it's
with that.
being based off of
What is
license 4-2.3 licenses for
Okay.
hawkers, peddlers, shows, carnival, circus, miniature golf.
4-2-3? I'm pulling it up. 4-2-3. Okay,
And
I'm
this
reading
is-
it.
If you go all the way to the bottom, it's like,
Hawkers, peddlers, so old language.
it really is. It's ordinance number 1300. We haven't used those numbers since the 60s. This ordinance is outdated by several decades, and concurring with Anthony, we need language from this millennium that would address
Right.
this.
But under this ordinance right now, is Mr. Moyer in compliance? And under this ordinance that's on our books as of today, what is he allowed to do? What are we allowed to grant him permission to do? Because we do need to update this. Anthony, hawkers and peddlers, totally outdated. But today, for Mr. Moyer's business and the summer and food trucks with concerts, if we wanted to support this Tenafly resident and his business, what are we allowed to do?
Right. So Lizette, he's got the permit. Where can he go? Right. What's he allowed to do?
Well, it's stipulated in whatever his permit says that it would be for 7 days.
Where?
I don't have his permit. If he has his permit,
If I may, I did talk to the traffic department in town. I forget the officer's name, and
Sergeant Bazzo?
Chamberlain. Yes. So he kind of said, like, if I wanted to do it in a private parking lot, he said it would almost be perfectly okay. Like the Stop and Shop parking lot, if I had access from Stop and Shop, he said it'd pretty much be okay. Where I guess the problem comes is public and parking in a public lot.
So are you going to speak to Stop and Shop? I mean, what do we?
No, that was just an example.
Okay.
So he's asking us to use the borough property, and so that's why we're having this discussion. So with Vinny's point about traffic, very well point, where can we safely allow a food truck, if at all? And that's what we have to look into.
Well, we can't we don't know the answer for CSX yet. We won't hear from them forever. So
Right.
I suggest the Wells Fargo parking lot.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say we'll never hear back from CSX.
well, the borough issues parking permits, commuter parking permits there. Like if it's a resident, it's $150 for the year. If it's non-resident, it's $400 a year. So the borough has authorization from CSX to allow parking in which it's a source of revenue to the borough. So I don't think you need to contact CSX. CSX had to be contacted for the construction of Piermont Road because of any potential impact that the infrastructure repair would have on their infrastructure.
But parking and running a food truck are not the same. I would not say that's legally the same.
Right, so we need
A
to,
food truck
we
is
can't,
parked for
right,
hours.
we can't have a conversation about the CSX lease without the lease in front of us. You know, we need to see we can look at that. Lizette and I will look at that tomorrow.
So the Wells Fargo parking lot?
Can I suggest we just end this and just Wells Fargo parking lot, end the story?
I like that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Vinu, does that solve your traffic issue?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part. I mean, I do have some of Julie's concerns as well, but you know, I'm more whatever. I'm more happy with it being there.
Okay. Jeff, Julie, any comments? Looks like Wells Fargo parking lot it is. John, you got that?
I have no more comments other than to just reiterate that we need to know what it is they're permitted to do currently, of course, before we discuss further.
Well, the building department and code enforcement, Julie, that I think they'll keep John in line, right?
Right.
Well, I just, I'm getting different answers of the 7-day permit. I heard good for a year. I don't know. It just, I'd like to hear from, what it actually says when we all have it in front of us. But Wells Fargo it's a fine lot. I'm going to reiterate, if there's a food truck there, when there's the concert series, every other restaurant that could have benefited from it when there's a concert series going on is also, they're not going to get that business. So, but look, a food truck's a food truck. I'm just saying that, we have to think of all these factors.
What about the lot across the street from Wells Fargo where we sell our Christmas tree? The Boy Scouts sell the Christmas trees, that tiny little lot. That's actually closer to town and then leaves open the entire Wells Fargo. That's a commuter lot, Lizette? What is that?
That is one of our parking lots. Anyone can park in there. I use that all the time.
Oh, well, now you have to get steak when you go.
There you go. All right, so John, sounds like the lot across the street from Wells Fargo. You know which one that is?
I do. I do.
What does everyone else feel?
How's everybody else good with that?
Just a question. Now next year, the mobile food permit would have to be, you would have to apply and get granted that again next year, right? So it's a year to year.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and in terms of, so if we have an ordinance, created by then, the current ordinance at the time would prevail.
Right, any new ordinance we create would be the current law. So right. I think with that in mind, with everyone's concerns, I think Anthony should at a future meeting be prepared to give us some advice and suggestions about how we manage the concept of food trucks going forward.
Right, okay.
All right, everyone, John, you're clear on what the council is permitting? Jeff, go ahead. Jeff?
Yeah, the only thing I want to add, I just did a quick read of 4-2, and I forget it. This applies to nothing in the current. I think Lizette may have said nothing in the current century.
It mentions horse carriages.
It does. It does.
Well, 4-2 talks about hawkers and peddlers being people who sell medicine. I mean, we're back to the days of selling medicines.
Snake oil salesman.
Before the FDA. We need to look at this, but I have no problem with
John.
I have no problem with John setting up in that small lot. I'd have a bigger problem if the movie theater were operating, because that's where I always park for movies. But right now, that's a good spot, and I encourage him to try and help his business. We have a concert tomorrow night. I'm going to say that 100 times more this
okay.
Meeting.
All right. Thank you, John. Lizette, if you could do a communication.
Thanks, John.
with the police chief to let him know and let the department know where Mr. Moyer will be parking over in that lot across the street from Wells Fargo.
Okay, I'll let the chief as well as the health inspector know.
Yes, yes.
And can I just say, John, if there's any way to reduce the amount of parking you overtake, that would be preferable.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the only reason why I suggested the other part, as well as it's just a one-way, I thought that would help a little bit. It seemed like a really wide road, and it was a one-way, so just as something to consider. But we can obviously talk about it.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, correspondence is from Rachel Rothstein regarding the Tenafly Recreation Camp. Does anyone have any questions or comments they'd like to make on this? No? Okay. Next is a letter from Lena Kratchy regarding recce's. Any questions or comments? Okay. And then the last is from Jonathan Soto is interested in doing Thursday night concerts after the movie night after the concerts. Jeff, have you had a conversation with Mr. Soto?
I did a few weeks ago when he was originally looking for ideas about having a movie night. We haven't talked since, and obviously it's been a little hard to communicate with our server down today. I wanted to reach out to him. I'll give him a call. The only issue is going to be setting up that quickly after a concert in the park. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that has to be shifted around and a lot of stuff gets taken down. So it's going to be really a little tough to do it right after the concert. And I don't know how many people, I guess it depends how buggy a night is, how long people stay, but you know, yeah.
So he's actually made an application. So does the council need to either approve this or not tonight, or was that where are we with this?
Yes, council has to approve it because he has to he wants to hold it at Hyler Park in conjunction with the concerts, and he doesn't have a certificate of liability insurance. He put in his email that he spoke with the chamber and they will sponsor, but he hasn't moved forward in coordinating that with the chamber because first he has to see if he'll have permission. If you could grant permission contingent upon the chamber providing an updated COI, naming the borough as an additional insured for Thursday night movie nights.
All right. So does the council would the council like to do that? Give permission contingent on that, and then he would have to coordinate with Jeff to make the logistics work.
Yeah, because just to finish the point, the logistics. I mean, he put in there to start setting up at 8. Concerts go from 7 to 8:30, so he can't even start set up till 8:30 and some of these concerts go a little longer, closer to 9. By the time he gets set up, it's going to be pretty late, and then you're going to be having his midnight won't be realistic in that sense. That's my only concern is just the switch out is going to be major.
Why is he wanting to do it back to back? Why wouldn't he want an independent evening?
That's what I'm wondering. I can speak to him about that. I have a question for Lizette. So we just bought this FM transmitter. Now he wants to. It looks like he isn't going to charge for the movies. Is this something that it's borough property? Is it something he can use because there is no monetary benefit to him, or is it something that we can't let be used for someone's purpose like this?
No, that transmitter, since it's borough property, has to be used for a borough-sponsored event. And I'm reading that he's thinking of selling drinks and snacks. He has to get permission from the health department to do that.
He would need a permit.
Yes.
Again, just like the last person.
So if we were running a movie night, though, as a borough, we could obviously use this equipment. So we could do a drive-in movie night.
Is this drive-in or is this blankets on the grass?
No, he's not talking drive-in, but we could do a drive-in very easily now.
I mean, on Piermont.
We could do a drive-in probably if we can coordinate with the middle school to use their lot. We could have cars go in there, face a screen, broadcast it so that people can stay in their car and listen on the radio and hear the entire dialogue of the movie.
So, which is a whole separate question, right? If he wants to do it somewhere else. So
Right.
Does the council want to approve this and based on the contingencies of the insurance, the coordination?
I mean, there's a lot of contingencies here.
There's a lot of contingencies here.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the movie night, and it always has to start after dark anyway. So that might be part of his point as well. It's going to have to start late.
So Lizette, are there too many contingencies or can the council move forward on this? What do you think?
I think the burden of the contingencies would be on Mr. Soto in order to meet them. But permission can be granted as long as he meets all of this. But I don't know if he'll be able to start with this week's concert series.
I would say he has to have insurance. He has to be able to socially distance. If he's going to sell food, he has to go through all the permitting that the hawkers and peddlers at other places have to go through. I mean, all
I
of
have a
this.
legal question.
Go ahead, Dan.
Licensing of the movies. When the county runs movie nights, they have to license the movie. But that if we're letting it on our property, he'd have to prove that he has a license to show a movie.
Good question.
He mentioned that in the letter.
Yeah.
He said that he'd play the classics that would have been out of the license already.
Gotcha.
So Lizette, so something like this, is this approved by consensus by the council so that they don't have to do it tonight if they choose to, and they can do it next week? You can poll the council if you have enough of the contingencies have been satisfied?
Yes, and also I would forward this over to the police department for their evaluation.
I'm not sure, what the council thinks, but I think there's a lot of contingencies and open questions here that have to be resolved. And I think if we give this gentleman a few more days to resolve that, and then the council can approve it by consensus subsequent to this meeting, perhaps that's the best way to go. What does everybody think?
Okay.
I would like to recommend that, unless Jeff feels otherwise, that this guy has to go through like Tenafly Presents. Maybe that's the right, group of people that would help him facilitate. What do you think, Jeff? I know it's more. I know. I didn't mean to make you more work.
No, it's just right now we have. It's like switching out groups because we've had some last minute cancellations, other groups that want to come in. We're still balancing this.
Okay.
Yeah, let's let the gentleman meet the contingencies and have Lizette get back to all of us.
Okay.
And then you can approve it or not.
But I promise, because it does involve the concerts, I've spoken to him once. I'll reach out to him again.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on that topic? We'll move on to the resolutions. Any questions about the resolutions?
Yes.
Who said yes?
Who else?
Go ahead,
Yes.
Lauren.
Now I have to remember what it was. Oh, I wanted to acknowledge that to the public, that our new human resources manager is starting. Thank you to the council and the mayor and council for that. We're excited to add this new position to our borough. So for anyone listening in the public, our newest person, Victoria, will start next week. Mark, you said?
On the 20th.
On the 20th, and we hope that she facilitates lots of new and progressive changes here. So that's great. And then I did have a question on the liquor licenses. We have an unsighted license still.
Yes.
So what is the status for that? And do we know if anyone has been interested?
I haven't received an application for a transfer yet. Last year, when this license was up for renewal, the licensee had to apply for a special ruling, and under state statute, a licensee can be granted a special ruling by the director of the ABC for 1 or 2 terms, no more than 2 terms.
Okay, that's this one. Okay.
So last year, the licensee received a special ruling for last year and this New Year's term.
Okay. I was going to ask if that was the one that we gave approval. So there you go.
Okay, any other questions on the resolutions? No? Okay, Lizette, what's next?
And that's, well, we have the ordinances.
Yep.
I believe Susan had an update on something that was closed session asked to be public.
But can I just go back? Usually before resolutions, we do the admin report, and the engineering report. We didn't really have a discussion on those. Can we, before we move to any public hearings?
Lizette, do you have a report?
No, the update I had involved Woodland Street signs.
Because we got the engineering report. Is there anything on any of the grants or anything we need to know?
No, all the grants have been.
Everything's in?
Yeah, everything's been submitted. Once a grant is approved for an award, then there would be a resolution to execute a grant agreement.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we're ready for an adjournment, Lizette?
I think Susan had something.
Oh, Susan, go ahead.
Oh, was this the part that was going to be enclosed, but it's in open session now?
Well, the agenda has to be revised, so whenever there's a revision, that's discussed in the work session, so that way when we're in the regular meeting on the revisions to the agenda, Anthony could say the meeting has been revised to add this, to change this.
Right, so am I going to be discussing what was originally going to be enclosed?
Yes, you have to let the governing body know that the Rice employees, the majority requested the discussion in public, so the discussion as a whole will be in public.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I write 4 individual employees regarding compensation, and they requested to be in public session. So I need a revision to the agenda from closed into public meeting.
Okay, so does Anthony need to do that, or how do we do that?
Yeah, so Anthony would have to do that.
So on the revisions to the agenda, it would just be announced that the initial item for closed session personnel salary adjustments will be discussed under new business, as the majority of the employees affected requested the discussion to be in open session.
Anthony?
He's muted.
Can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, I'm just trying to pull that resolution. I'll make that change when I announce it. Okay?
Yeah.
That's fine. And we have that conversation in the public meeting section, right, Lizette?
Correct. Business.
Okay, so now we can entertain a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll go right to the public meeting. I'll read the Open Public Meetings Act statement. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, the Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. Okay, salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please, Lizette.
Member Dayton,
Here.
Councilmember Grossman,
Here.
Councilmember Menon,
Here.
Councilmember O'Connor,
Here.
Councilmember Park,
Here.
Mayor Rustin, Mayor Dinner.
Here.
They're both here.
Peter McLean.
All right. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 21st, 2020 and June 23rd, 2020?
So moved.
Second. Vote, please.
No, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anthony, revisions to the agenda. Anthony, you're muted.
Thank
Any
you.
revisions?
Are we going into closed?
Clicked.
No, we're in public meeting right now.
Okay, so the resolution R20-272 is going to be revised with respect to the first reference for the closed session of personnel salary adjustments, as the majority of members have decided that they wish for that discussion to be had in public session.
Okay. All right, so we'll discuss that when we do the consent agenda itself.
New business.
New business, okay. Okay. All right, we're going to open the floor to public comment. Lizette, people have hands up?
No one has their hand raised. I know I have one. Oh, I have Peter Rustin has his hand raised. Everybody else is appearing as a call-in user, so there's no hand raising function in that regard.
Okay, Peter, you're up.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. You just disappeared.
Okay.
So,
a couple of things. I'm getting reverb on my end.
Peter, I might suggest that you put your screen on mute.
I unfortunately don't see a screen. I'm trying to figure out how to mute myself.
Peter, we could hear you through the screen, so you don't need to be on the phone.
Right, that's true too.
Try muting the phone first before hanging up.
It doesn't appear when I mute myself, it doesn't appear that you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay. A couple of things. You know, you talked about the flag policy.
Yeah, now you've got all kinds of feedback.
How's this? Is this better now?
Yes. We'll
Okay.
see.
I appreciate the attorney's comment when he said slippery slope, because I think you're opening up a can of worms. It has nothing to do, my opinion doesn't reflect on you know, the approvals you've had in the past. It just is by making one or two approvals, I think you're opening up yourself for litigation in the future, and you know, divisive arguments about what you approve and what you don't approve. So you have to be very, very careful. You know, at one time, borough property meant something. When we're opening up to all sorts of organizations, and you're putting yourself in a position where you have to approve or disapprove things, it's a very, very difficult thing. And I connect that almost to the situation with the food truck. You folks have gone to great lengths to work with the restaurants in town, and it sounds to me like you're going to approve a business that pays no property taxes, that pays no rent, and you're going to let them operate on borough property. If I owned a restaurant in this town, I would be very, very upset. You know, for a one-night thing, if you have a special like community night, that's fine. But to give somebody a semi-permanent position in this town, and thank goodness you moved it from in front of Axia. Axia was extremely upset when they heard about this. So once again, I think there's a lot of similarities between approving certain flags and approving food trucks, because this is just the first one. And if you have a food truck in town and it's successful, you're going to have more coming your way. So I would be very, very careful. The good news I have for you, this is the last time I'm going to discuss what's going on downtown with the one-way streets. You know, it's been a windfall for Brasserie and for the diner. There's a few restaurants that are really doing well. But if you start to think about businesses like the camera store, the cleaners, there's more than one, the kosher deli, Che Cheese, the pet store, the Legay Artist Salon, I must mispronounce that, the bike store, Floor Decor, all of these owners, Pizza Nova, have come out against it, okay, and have come out saying their business is being hurt. You know, Mark, I agree with you, and I used to say this all the time. I don't believe we have a real parking problem in town, but people have been complaining about it for years, and now you take away parking spaces, it exasperates whatever situation there is. But the worst part about what's going on downtown are the one-way streets. There are businesses that you can't get there from here. If you're coming down from one direction, it's almost impossible to get to certain businesses. And if you travel downtown, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I truly believe that you need to figure out a system that allows for outdoor dining, which is a great thing, but doesn't make streets one way. It's possible to do that by moving the barriers closer to the sidewalk, eliminating double rows of tables, and lengthening the rows of tables so that you have the same amount of tables with you know, less obstruction in the street. I wish the project well, but I think I was told, and a lot of the business owners were told, that there would be rethinking of this and changes made if necessary, and I don't believe the changes that are necessary have been made. So please consider reviewing this one more time and trying to help out stores like the pet store and the camera store and the kosher deli. They're really hurting. Floor Decor and the bike shop. None of these businesses approve this. I think we're turning a blind eye to the majority of our business community. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Peter.
Hi,
Yeah,
can you ask if there's
yeah.
callers in that need to speak?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Just to follow up with Peter's comment, I'm not sure if he was on in the beginning, but there was conversation about some of the changes and alterations we're making on Washington Street, which we're hoping that will get accomplished tomorrow with moving some of the barriers around. So more to come on that, and thank you for your input. Are there other callers, Lizette?
Yes, this is Erica Meklas, 86 Oxford Drive.
Go ahead.
I wanted, Lisette, can I speak?
Go ahead. Yes, you're up.
I was just going to say that since if people are calling in through their phones, there's not the raise hand feature, so I wouldn't know if somebody had to speak.
Okay.
Go ahead, Erica.
Thank you. I wanted to go ahead and speak to the concept of backyard playgroups this summer. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As many of you are probably aware, these backyard playgroups have bubbled up all over the town and also beyond in other counties and throughout the state to allow children a social and emotional and a physical outlet during these difficult times. And whether it's parents just getting together to hire an art teacher or a yoga teacher or a gymnastics teacher or swimming teacher or what have you, we've all gotten pretty creative and probably more than we ever thought we would need to be. But I wanted to speak to the council today to express my opinion that these backyard playgroups, including my own, should be permitted this summer on a temporary basis to get our children through to the fall when hopefully things can go back to somewhat of a normalcy for them. And in my backyard, I host my kindergarten daughter and my niece and several of her friends, and they do arts and crafts and they play sports and they swim and they socialize and they exercise, and they are not harming anyone. But instead of allowing these 6-year-old children to play, my husband and I have received ticket after ticket, and now the town is threatening to file an order to show cause in Superior Court for operating what they're calling a, quote, illegal camp in our backyard. And we feel that it's aimed at destroying the only semblance of summer that these children can squeeze out during these very difficult times. You know, I listened to Governor Murphy talk all about all the deaths from COVID, but what about our children who are suffering in a way different way this summer? They're suffering socially and emotionally, and nobody talks about that. And all they're doing is playing outside in the backyard with their close friends instead of at a traditional day camp, which is the safest place for these children to be right now. But the town is putting a few neighbors' complaints of noise and of traffic above these children's well-being. And really, what noise are we talking about? Innocent children laughing and playing. And as far as traffic goes, Oxford Drive has been a construction zone for years. And these neighbors are worried about a few extra SUVs going down the street. As parents and a community, we have an obligation to prioritize our children, especially during these times. And I'd just like to end by saying that my husband and I have been singled out as doing something, quote, illegal, when the same thing has been happening in backyards all over this town and beyond. And we just want to let our children play. So we'd be happy to hear from other members of the community or that council on this issue, but it's been really important to us. And we feel that the community should allow these play groups to happen in people's backyards.
Okay, thank you. Lauren?
So I just want to say that I very much agree that we as a community really need to remember that so many of these little kids this summer are just without structure and without the options of camps and things that are safe. So we should definitely try to make accommodations where we can when it's on behalf of the children. And maybe as a town, we need to consider putting something in writing that allows for small social gatherings pursuant to the governor's orders of working parents who are getting kids together with one babysitter or small groups, whatever the governor allows, of small children that are playing or socially distancing playing. But I would, we've talked a lot about new ordinances here tonight, and this is one that I would be interested in proposing and seeing what the rest of the council would think.
Anthony, do you want to weigh in on that at all?
Sure, Mayor. First, it's really not my policy to discuss what could potentially be and I understand that there were summonses that were issued, that the matter is going to be before the municipal court on July 15th.
I'm not speaking about this specific person. I'm talking about in general.
With that being said, from my perspective, I spoke with Mrs. Meckles today. From my perspective, in reviewing the governor's executive order number 149 and specifically paragraph 10, which speaks directly to prohibiting residential day camps, in reviewing the borough's zoning ordinances that are on the books right now, which does not allow for summer day camps in the residential zone. And in light of the fact, as I indicated to Mrs. Meckles on the phone today, in light of the fact that we're in the midst of a global pandemic, we're obligated as a borough to enforce our zoning laws. We're obligated.
I'm not talking about day camps. I'm talking about something totally different.
We're obligated. Well, I'm talking about the summonses that were issued, which is what she's calling.
But that's not what that's what
my comment is about.
I know, but I think that should be enclosed. I think
so
maybe we should discuss any pending litigation in public session.
It's all a public record. So it's a public record with respect to the fact that we are obligated to enforce our zoning regulations and we're obligated to enforce the governor's orders, and that's all that I'll speak to with regard to that.
So what I'm asking the council to consider is to make sure that we have a policy that if kids are babysitting or working parents are getting together with their kids babysitting, which I myself am doing, that we are encouraging, social emotional development of our kids.
All right, let's move on to the next. Are there any more callers?
Yes, there are.
Go ahead. Is your name and your address, please?
It's Jason and Brooke Meister, and we're at 136 East Clinton Avenue.
Okay.
Our daughter is also a part of that program that Erica Meckles was talking about, Lexi Meister, and the play group. And look, it sounds to me like we're in unprecedented times, and it's really not a COVID-related issue, but more a zoning-related issue. So these children have been locked up for 125 plus days, and they really need this outlet to be able to get together with their girlfriends
and have these activities. So it seems to me that the solution here is that the town needs to issue a permit to allow this to be legally done so that the kids can have this ability to play with each other. And so to me, the Mecklises are providing a community service by allowing these kids to play in their backyard. There's nothing that COVID related that there's an issue. The governor is allowing up to 100 people in backyards. This is nothing close to that. It's a very small group of girls and boys. So I just don't see any issue other than the town should be issuing a permit to allow this to happen.
I don't understand why we need a permit. Like, I'm allowed to have my daughter's friends over to play in my backyard, correct?
So Lauren, we really
Public
can't
comment,
get
can you
into.
not respond?
Lauren, we can't comment on this issue. Okay, sir, was that, did you finish commenting? Okay, I guess so. Okay, are there other callers, please? Anyone else? Go ahead.
It's Alex Parlamas
Hi.
from Axia Taverna, 18
ahead, sir.
Piedmont Road. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
First of all, thank you very much to the town for all the support, both locally and from a municipal standpoint. We very much appreciate it and welcome it. I did join this call a bit late, and I apologize about that. But I know that there was a discussion about a food truck in town, and further to former Mayor Rustin's comments regarding that, I do believe it's not the proper approach for the town of Tenafly. I will tell you guys, in fact, a friend of mine who owns a food truck actually offered it to me, and it actually sat in the Axia parking lot for some time with the thought of us potentially using it. And I didn't believe it was a good thing for our town. And I will continue to, speak to those sentiments with regard to a food truck being in the town. Can you guys just offer me a little more information, Mayor, as to where the food truck would be and what it is, and more details on the matter?
So we've learned this evening that there's a permitting system that food trucks have been on the books for decades and decades. And the gentleman went out and applied for a permit for 7 days. He's allowed to operate for 7 days, and he'll be parking his food truck over by Wells Fargo, one of the parking lots over in that area off of East Clinton Avenue.
Okay.
Or that's West Clinton and the railroad track area. That's where he'll put that, and his permit allows him to be there for 7 days. And based on the things we learned tonight, our borough attorney is going to go ahead and look into what are the rules, or what the rules should be regarding food trucks. Does that answer your question?
I believe it does. What you're saying is you guys aren't currently voting on that particular matter with regard to the council. You're just collecting information at this time, the intent of making a decision based on your council's response.
No. So he was already granted a permit because it's on the books. A person's allowed to do that.
Okay.
But historically, people haven't done it in Tenafly other than permits for like let's say there's a street fair or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Right? They were I guess when they were put on the books originally decades and decades ago, it was created for the purposes of getting permits for street fairs and events that would last a couple of days. So he applied for a food permit through the health department and the building department and was granted it for 7 days. And then through consensus, through consensus, it was agreed that he would park over by the Wells Fargo lot.
Okay, so it was originally proposed to be across the street from 18 Piedmont Road, Axia's address.
That's correct. That's not happening.
And it was further decided that it should be where the Christmas trees are kind of sold, over by Wells Fargo.
Correct. That's correct.
All right, and it's granted from whenever you guys issue the permit, which may be as soon as tomorrow, for 7 days.
So the permit, to our understanding, the permit was already granted. I believe it's, from the time then the person parks the truck, he's got 7 days.
No,
Okay.
May I just chime in for a second? I don't think it's 7 days. I think it's he can be in one location for no more than 7 days. But he can operate for whatever 300 days of the year if he wants.
So we need to get some clarification on all these details.
Mr. Mayor, are you allowed to identify who he is and what his what his business model is? Does he put down what type of cuisine he's serving, or?
I think, what did he say? Steak sandwiches or something like that?
Steak sandwiches. Cheesesteak?
Yeah, and his name is
John Moyer.
John Moyer.
Okay.
He's a Tenafly resident.
And I know you came on a little late, but this is Councilwoman O'Connor, and I'm not on board with this idea. I just want to be on record.
Okay, so listen,
I'm quite concerned about our local businesses, but I just want to say that.
Right.
We are going to look at it further.
right, we've got more. It's on the books. He was granted a permit because you're allowed to do that, and we have to look at it further.
Very good, sir. I appreciate you guys hearing me. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you.
Indeed.
Any other public comments? Anyone out there?
Andrew Till wanted to speak next. He just
Andrew
joined.
Till, you have to take yourself off mute. You're on mute, and go ahead.
Am I off?
Your name and your address, please.
Andrew Till, 124 Oxford Drive. How's everyone tonight? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I just dialed in, so I'm very late. So I hope I'm not repeating anything. But beautiful paved streets today. Old Smith is like a dream today. So congratulations to all of you. Honestly, I say it every meeting. I applaud all of you. It's unbelievable what's happened in the last 6 months. And I just want to let you know that I rode down Old Smith today and I couldn't believe it. So anyway, so that's number one. The reason I wanted to just comment is I wanted to just we finished Tenafly Cares. We wrapped up Tenafly Cares a few weeks 2 weeks back. I just wanted to, if you don't mind, I just wanted to read just a few of we got a number of thank you emails. A bunch of them came to Adam Michaels, Councilman Michaels' email. I just wanted you guys to hear. I just wanted to really quickly read, and we got some physical cards too. So let me just, if everyone's just 1 minute. So and I won't read any of the names or any of the identify anyone, but I just want to read this.
Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you so much for all your effort. Our family was able to stay safe and happy because of your kind. God bless you and have a great rest of the summer. Dear Andrew and Adam, the wonderful dinners were warmly appreciated each night. Thank you very much for all your time and effort. Dear Councilman Michaels, I'm not going to read the name. I'm an upcoming junior at Tenafly High School. Although times are tough these days, I want to thank you for giving your time and your precious effort on preparing our family food for the past few months. We really appreciate all this. I hope you have a great summer. Stay safe, and once again, thank you so much. And not just two more. Thank you for providing my family with delicious meals over the last 3 months. The meals helped my family a lot during this difficult quarantine period. The two men who served meals every day were never late. They were always kind. They encouraged us with their smiles and their kind words. We're satisfied and very thankful to the borough of Tenafly. I'm writing to his email to let you know that Tenafly Dinner Program helped me and my family immensely. In this tough economic time due to COVID-19, the program was essential to my family's well-being. The food was always clean and edible and usually delicious. The two gentlemen who served the dinners were very courteous and understanding. I don't know who those two gentlemen were, but they seemed very nice. We are very sad the program is ending today. To be honest, we still need all the help we can. My wife is unable to work because of the pandemic, and I'm unable to work because of the disability. I've applied for disability benefits, but the benefits are still pending. Thank you, and thank you to Tenafly. Be safe and healthy and have a great summer. And last one. Nope, that was it. So anyway, I just wanted to just read those. Thank yous to everyone. I mean, they were completely unneeded. We helped a lot of people. We raised a lot of money. I especially wanted to read them because I think there were a number of people who questioned if we were doing good. And I know, always knew we were, and this just rectifies it. So shame on those who didn't. But I just want to, I said this before and I'll say it again. I'll just in closing, thank you to everyone on the council and the mayor, because you guys supported us and you really helped us, just with all the, not only helping us, and pushing us to raise the money we did. The support from the town was incredible, from the citizens of the town was incredible. We did a lot of great things. We helped people for the period that we did, and we couldn't have done it alone as private citizens. It was really with your help and support. So I really thank all of you for all of that. And I think, as you can see from these letters, I hope everyone's proud that we seem to really help. So that's what I just wanted to share tonight.
Okay,
real quick, Andrew.
Thank you
real
very
quick.
much. We appreciate it and all the hard effort that you and your team did. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, can I just real quick?
Dan, go ahead.
Stay in touch with those families, because even though the Tenafly Cares program is over, food bank programs might be being ramped up from the federal level and trickle down to us. So
Okay.
stay in touch with those people.
Okay, I know there was one family in particular, and I'll speak to Councilman Michaels about it, because I know he had their name where they had requests to see if it could have kept on going. So we have their information, so we can share that off the record.
Yeah, I gave his contact info to the freeholder board, so they'll be in touch with him too.
Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, great.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, any members, Lizette, anyone else from the public looking to speak?
Hi, my name is Joanna Wald,
Hi, your address, please?
48 Foster Road.
Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to talk in regards to the backyard play groups really quickly.
Sure.
My son participates in one of those play groups, and since the pandemic, he's really suffered tremendously, and having that social emotional lack of social emotional togetherness with his friends has been really, really hard on him. And in the last few weeks, having him back outside with his friends, moving around, getting exercise has changed his psyche tremendously. And I thank the families who are helping us create these play groups, because it has helped my child come out of a really bad funk, and he's a 6-year-old little boy. And I just hope that we really think about our kids and what we can do to help them through these past few months. And instead of ticketing these people, we try to help them out and help them along with these kids to keep their psyche up.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public? Lizette, anyone else out there?
Let's see. No one else has their hand raised, and all that's left are people that are calling in. So
Okay, so we're not gonna miss anyone or accidentally skip them, right?
Nope.
Lizette,
Okay.
can I chime in?
Who is that?
Michael Greeley, 158 River Edge Road.
Oh, hi, Michael. Go ahead.
How are you? I just wanted to publicly, draw attention to the monumental effort that the Recreation Department's put forth over the last several weeks, putting together rec at short notice. And really, the feedback that I've heard from my friends and neighbors whose children are participating in camp, and then going by firsthand to seeing what they've been able to put together. I really think it's not only commendable, but it's really a reflection of how well the department itself is put together, and how they've been able to really make lemonade from a tremendous amount of lemons that they've been given. I think Jamie, Carol, and the entire staff really deserve a commendation of sorts for this a task that they put together. And I guess it's also a credit to the council for the support that you've given to them and everyone. And I think that I'd extend that also to Mark Slauson although I haven't gone by and visited the camp firsthand. Today, when I rode by, I saw a good part of 20 or 30 kids out there looking like they were having the time of their life. So, I mean, to me, it's been the COVID's been a challenge for everyone, but I think to the credit of our staff and all the folks in town, we've been able to pull out a little bit of happiness for the kids that have looked forward to this for some time. So that's all I wanted to say. So thank you all and enjoy your night.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your time. Okay, any other members of the public? Okay, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Going to call the roll there, Lizette, or all in favor? What are we doing?
No, I have to call the roll. Just
Go
in
ahead.
case anyone has to abstain. Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Committee reports. Julie, would you like to go first tonight?
Sure. Just reporting on the Census Committee. Hopefully, some of you have been seeing the signs that are posted around town, and just encouraging everyone to keep telling people to complete their census. And so we were able to purchase the signs, and they've been going up around town, and we're going to be able to rotate them to different places. So if people have different ideas of where they should go, people have many more months to complete the census. So that's what we're going to focus on, high participation rate. And that's it for now. Things have been pretty quiet.
So, Julie, just do you have a sense of the participation rate in Bergen County, Jersey, Tenafly? Do you know what that is yet? And then Vanu, you're next.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, because my WebEx was going out. Let me get you those latest numbers. I know that we were above the state average last time, so and we continue to be. So, but I'm going to get you those latest numbers in just a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
they're about 13% ahead.
Oh, Dan's got it. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead, Dan. You have the numbers.
So, no, last I checked, it was around 13% ahead of state average.
13% ahead, Tenafly. Okay, good. That's great. That's fabulous,
I don't remember
guys.
when that was.
Okay, Vanu. You're muted, Vanu.
Just to chime in on the same thing, we have three areas in Tenafly, and we're, I think, averaging just about 75% for the entire town. So that's higher, I think, than last time, is my understanding. So it's pretty good, and we have to keep up the pressure.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Lauren, do you want to give your report next?
Sure. I will start with the welcoming committee. The welcoming committee met finally after a couple months of not meeting, and they did it actually outside in Roosevelt Commons, 6 feet apart, actually like 12 feet apart. And they voted that they will not hold an in-person event this year for new residents. Instead, they've come up with the idea, with the council's permission, to do a video welcome in which all of us can, and any other people that we usually have, the police chief, the superintendent, and so forth, will make a hi, welcome to a Tenafly video, very quick resources for the new residents. And then we're hoping to hold our first live event again in 2021. So I need a sense from the council if that's something they're interested in. The mayor, of course, you introduce it with the welcoming committee, and we would then send this out to all the new residents in town.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I'm supportive of that.
Okay. Well, usually it has a September event, and they just don't feel like it would make sense to do it with the social distance requirements.
Look, it's everyone, each different group has to do what they're comfortable with. I think that's a huge priority. And, September's right around the corner. So, I get it. I understand.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't serve food. You couldn't cater. They can't have little kids all around a magician, that kind of thing.
Right. So that's fine. 2021 it is.
So when you guys all receive an email from me saying it's time to do your Zoom welcome new residents video, please do not delete it. So that's welcoming committee, and thank you to Roxana Suri and the rest of the group for helping to organize that. The second thing is the Tenafly Nature Center. They held their trash-a-thon, and many families came out to help clean up our community. So thank you to Deborah Davidson and the Nature Center board for organizing. The update for the Nature Center is also the sluice gate at the pond that we just paid for broke again. I've sent this information in to Mayor Zinna, who should share it along with our Mazer Engineering and hopefully get this gate fixed. And does anyone have a status on that?
I
Yes.
have the status.
Go ahead, Lizette.
The gate is not broken. It is the head wall caused by the pressure of the water that has to be plugged. The gate is completely fine.
Okay. And when can we get that repaired? Do we know?
That is in process. That would be a repair done by the DPW. So it's not like you have to go out for a contractor.
Good.
They patch it up. They already patched it up twice, and the water just keeps, based on the pressure that's put in, keeps trying to find a new route and then causes another leak. But that's all water pressure based, not gate based.
Do we need a different system?
So, Lizette, could I jump in here only because I had a conversation with Andy on Saturday? What's today? Monday, right? So that was 2 days ago. Lizette's 100% right. So that the gate is fine, and because the gate is successful, it is forcing the water pressure to go underneath the dam, which itself apparently may not be deep as it should be. And so Andy had prepared a letter. Email was off today, so that's going to be distributed to the council members through Lizette, with some recommendations about how we move forward. The dam may have to be dug a little bit deeper and force some concrete down there to make the problem go away. So yes, we do have an absolute update, and that information will probably come your way tomorrow.
Great. I'll share that with the board.
Yes.
We are still underway on the website committee. So Vinu and I are working with Omar and our website coordinator to try to get this launched hopefully this summer. We're doing our best. Thank you to all the departments who are working with us on reimagining our pages, and hopefully we will have this out to the public as soon as possible. The pandemic definitely delayed that a little bit, so sorry about that. And that's everything.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
All right, so a number of reports, sorry. I'll try and make them interesting, though. So part of the HPC we already covered tonight. They were concerned about what happened on Magnolia, and we went through that extensively. They also have been working with the Cotswold. There's been ongoing work there, and their HPC has been working with them to make sure that being a historic area that's in keeping with what was originally there. The Cotswold is very old, a very fascinating place. If no one has ever been down there, walk by that, you should. It also was where the famous musician Glenn Miller lived for some time. And if you don't know who Glenn Miller is, go check him out on YouTube. That's HPC in a nutshell. I'm saving the concerts for last. The planning board did meet, and the meeting was actually pretty short. It was basically to just adopt the final resolution for work being done downtown at a building that is going to be converted from all commercial to part commercial and part residential. I had discussed that at a previous meeting. The main thing is that they are looking for some way to hold a live meeting at the end of August so that the Bottle King application can continue. There's been a reluctance, I think, on the part of the applicant in particular to move forward with the application virtually because there are a lot of documents. They don't want anybody questioning later on that this is not a good idea to approve it or not approve it without people being able to actually see the documents, examine it, and have full opportunity to question. So they are looking to a way to make that happen late August. So that's that committee. The DPW.
Jeff, could I just jump, just because I have
Sure.
the potential meeting for that planning board meeting may take place in the Clinton Inn, actually, in one of their ballrooms, so that it allows for social distancing and the logistics would work there. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did see that was one option.
Yeah.
The next committee report, DPW, we do have a new DPW director who started last week. And so want to welcome Michael Cassidy aboard. He's already hit the ground running. Saw him actually yesterday when they were having the Juneteenth flag raising. He and his crew were out there making sure everything went smoothly. And I'm hoping that it'll go just as smoothly on Tuesday and Thursday night this week with the concerts. My goal is to get the word concerts in as many times as I can. The next report, so the last two are actually a little more detailed. So the next report is from the Stigma Free Committee. One of the things they want to do, and this is going to have to be explored with the Downtown Committee, is that August is National Overdose Awareness Month, which first of all, everybody should be aware of that, National Overdose Awareness Month. And what they'd like is for the town to help host a silent memorial. It's actually called the Black Poster Project. And the way this works, it's no cost to the town. The whole goal is to raise awareness of addiction. And it's set up by this organization, Alumni in Recovery. They're an independent organization of the town. And they create a silent memorial with about 100 tribute posters of people who have died of overdose. That's why it's called Black Poster Project. They set up posters with black borders to represent death. It's self-contained, walk through with soft music. They set it up for about 2 hours open-ended viewing. They have handouts. They do monitor social distancing. And they do no fundraising or politicking at this event. So I'd like to see if this is something that we could coordinate and hold somewhere downtown, that they could set this up for 2 hours sometime in August. They're very flexible as to when. And so be a really nice thing to raise awareness there. We know that addiction is a problem everywhere. It's all towns, all communities, and all demographic groups. It has no boundaries. So I would like for at least the downtown committee possibly consider, the chamber to consider how this event could best be coordinated. Last but not least, we are doing socially distanced concerts. We have been working hard. I have to thank the Tenafly Presents Committee. We have Joe, Jason, Alona, and Rich have worked tirelessly to reach out to groups to think through logistics. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at Hyler Park and Piermont Road, we're not just limiting it to the park, will be the 52nd Street Band. It is a Billy Joel tribute band. Followed on Thursday at the same location by Keith Kenny, a one-man band. We have the DPW is going to be setting up cones with signs so that we are going to have social distancing. Everybody coming needs to wear a mask, bring a chair. We're going to have the roadway. We're going to have the park everywhere available. We're going to have it's also going to be broadcast. So we have not tested the range yet. I've only tested the system. I know it works. We will be broadcasting on 88.1. My guess is there'll be about a quarter to a half mile. So no, you won't be able to hear it in every corner of town. But certainly if you go and sit at a restaurant on Washington Street, you can ask them, put it on their FM radio. 88.1, you can dine and listen to the concert live. assuming that it works smoothly tomorrow night. If it doesn't work by tomorrow, we'll have it fixed by Thursday. So want everybody to come. If you're not wearing a mask, don't come. It's that simple. This is not about anything other than safety. If we cannot do it safely, these concerts are not going to continue. That's the only thing that I can assure, is that safety is first, along with the enjoyment of music. It's a great lineup. I will say it's changing a little bit as we speak, because some groups are having problems being able to meet some of the deadlines of appearing when we want them. But it should be really exciting and a great series. And all concerts this year, for those who are used to going, all concerts are at Hyler Park. There will not be any at Davis Johnson. There will not be any indoor rain venue. If it rains, we will put out signs, concert canceled. And we kept some open dates for them to be rescheduled. So that's my long report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you for all the work with the team on these concerts. It's going to be great.
Mr. Zinna.
Yes.
Alex Parlambas again from Axia Taverna.
Hi.
Regarding your council members' report regarding that overdose awareness month event.
Right. Yes.
Mr. Grossman, how many people are you expecting at the event, and do you believe Axia to be a good venue for it?
If it's permitted.
So it's really open to just the public to wander through these 100 posters. And if you want to work out being one of the A side, because I think 100 posters would be a lot in front of Axia, but maybe we can have it set at a couple of locations so people can walk to your restaurant. That would be nice.
Why don't we have this conversation offline, Mr. Parlambas, with Councilman Grossman?
Certainly, I welcome the conversation.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you for the offer.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Venu, I believe you're up next.
Okay, well, I will take the opposite approach of what Councilman Grossman did. I'll just say it's a very short report. We had a zoning board of adjustment meeting, and there were just two items, and they were actually both very simple items. One was for it had a combined side yard 27% combined side yard percentage, and apparently the twist with this was that there was a zoning change done within the past 12 months, which then because they were making a change to the house, it kind of necessitated them coming in front of the board. But what they complied with both the minimum side yards, but there was a hardship under C1. So ultimately the board recognized the hardship and realized that there wasn't any major issues. They approved it unanimously.
That's good.
And then there was a second one on River Edge Road, where the front yard, the required was 30 feet and the proposed was 25.5 feet. And it was, the house wasn't built parallel to the front, and they wanted to correct it a little bit, so there was work done. They were putting in a porch as well as part of the whole project. And they had stopped the project. They hadn't done any work further to the part where they would need the variance. So they did all the work up to the variance, which is not normally how we would see it. We would see a project that shows what the variance is, and then they wouldn't do any of the work. But because it was, they could stop the project at the where the variance was required. Anyway, so that was approved as well. So two very
good.
Simple.
2 wins.
Yeah, 2 wins.
Good.
Okay, next, that was it.
That was it. Thank you, Venu. Dan, you're up.
We had the trash-a-thon with working with the Environmental Commission and the Nature Center. I believe 93 people showed up. We gave out bags, gloves, trash pickers. The county was kind enough to give us nice vinyl handout bags and T-shirts from the Clean Committee. I believe, I don't know what the weight of trash we picked up, but that's what shows what the amount of money you get back from the grant. But I'll have to get all the pictures.
That's great.
Yeah, it was actually a really nice event. It was blazing hot. TVAC it's only July 13th, but they've already had 19 calls so far for July. So they're still staying busy.
Good.
And that's it.
Anything else? So just a comment about the dog park, so everyone's aware. We're spraying the dog park, to keep the ticks and fleas at bay. And Dan, you might want to, you're on the dog park committee there. Might want to get a sense of, how often we should be spraying. Dog parks are new to Tenafly, so we don't necessarily know all the best practices yet. So it would be good to know that, to make sure we keep that area nice and clean.
You got it.
All right. All the committee reports are done. Let's move on to the public hearings. Lizette, is Omar, he can't, who's going to read, are you going to read the confirmation of publication and titles?
Yes, I will. Okay. Just give me 1 second.
Take your time.
All right. So the ordinances are ordinance number 20-15, an ordinance to amend salary, wage, or compensation of the rank of police officers of the Police Department of the Borough of Tenafly in the County of Bergen and State of New Jersey for the calendar years 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Ordinance number 20-16, an ordinance to amend the salary, wage, or compensation of the employees of the Tenafly Administrative Employees Bargaining Unit for the calendar years 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Okay. Are there any public comments on ordinances 20-15 through 20-16? Lizette, do we see anyone out there raising their hand?
No one has raised their hand.
Okay. Dan, would you like to make the motion on this?
Sure. Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. I move to pass and adopt in second and final reading ordinance 20-15 and 20-16, and that notice of same shall be published according to law.
I have a second, please.
Second.
Lizette, could you please conduct the roll call?
Sure. Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Sorry about the
Yes.
cat.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park? Dan, you're muted.
Dan, you're muted.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So new business, resolution 20-272, moving from the closed session to open session. Lizette, you want to guide us through this a little bit?
Yes, well, actually, this belongs under Susan's wheelhouse. There is an issue affecting salary adjustments for employees, and the employees have been issued a rice notice and had requested to have this discussion in public session, and I pass it along to Susan for further details.
Okay, Susan,
Okay.
you're up.
Thank you. So this will only take a few minutes. Basically, it has to do with summer camp, and I just wanted to be transparent about how I'm going to do the payroll. And for Mark Blessing, camp director of the youth center, he will be getting paid 4 of 6 weeks stipend, prorated, because the camp was closed for 2 weeks. And for the summer camp for Recce, the director and assistant director pay is not affected in any way. However, part of their budgeted pay is supplemented by the trust account. So therefore, instead of allocating 6 weeks from the trust, we'll only be allocating 4 weeks. But since we had furloughed some of the rec department during the year, this will not have a negative impact on our expenditures budgetarily this year. And that's basically it.
Council members have questions here? Okay. So that closes that topic, Susan? You don't need anything from anyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that topic will still be discussed in closed session for another employee. That has nothing to do with camp.
Right.
Okay. that's
Lizette,
fine.
I'm sorry, Lizette, can I just make a comment? This is Jamie.
Sure.
I just want to put on record, and I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported our camp. We've been receiving a lot of positive feedback from our summer camp, which we've worked really hard trying to organize. We received a letter stating that our summer camp pay was being compensated as far as camp was concerned. Carol and I receive a straight salary, so we are not compensated for camp. I just wanted to put on record that Carol and I do the summer camp, and then we also do our regular work hours in the morning and after summer camp into the late hours. So we're not directly compensated for summer camp.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments about that? Okay. All right. We're going to move on to mayor's remarks. I'll keep my remarks short tonight. I want to acknowledge that yesterday evening at 6:30 we had a vigil slash flag raising for Juneteenth, and it was attended by Sheriff Anthony Curitin. The entire council was there, except for Adam, who's traveling with his family across country. We had a councilwoman from Teaneck. Assemblyman Gordon Johnson was there. And so it was a very nice event. I'm very glad we did it. Last month we read a proclamation. I read the proclamation again yesterday evening. And I do hope our state legislature and our federal government do make this a state and federal holiday. And I think it's a good thing, and I'm glad we did what we did yesterday. So thank you for all of you for attending. We need a motion. I guess we need Anthony. You read the closed meeting statement, please.
Sure, Mayor. At a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on July 13th, 2020, be it resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly are going into closed executive session to discuss the following matters: A, personnel, salary adjustments, B, collective bargaining, 1, DPW supervisory bargaining unit. Minutes will be taken of the meeting and released to the public at the time that the matter is.
Can I, thank you, Anthony. Can I have a motion to go into closed?
Before that, I have to set up the WebEx for this closed session, and since the emails are coming up but quickly going away, Mark, can I send it to your personal email and you distribute it to council, because I don't have everybody's personal email.
So
but my council's not working.
Exactly, it would go to whatever your personal.
I'll send it to your personal email.
Okay. So you'll receive a forwarded email from Mark with the meeting link.
Right. I'll do that right away. So can I have a motion to go into closed?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, see you in a couple of minutes.